Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Wow, it's Thursday already.
Yes, let's go.
2 days from game day because the Browns play on Saturday, and it looks like they're going to get Anthony Brown at quarterback.
I thought it was Tyler Hunt
for the Ravens. I don't know. I heard a report this morning that it appears that Anthony Brown is going to be the starting quarterback. Unless that's changed since
I thought I heard that Tyler
Huntley
had practiced yesterday, so I assumed he was going to play, but maybe not.
I'm pretty sure that it's a given now that it will not be Lamar
It's
Jackson.
not Lamar, definitely.
No, it's not.
No.
So I think they're being pretty coy about this, but I read something early this morning that said it looks like Anthony Brown might get the nod. I don't know if they've definitively made that decision or not, but we'll see. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Busy day today. Cavs win last night. I'm going to ask you guys if this was their most impressive win of the season. I know they had two nice wins against the Celtics, but considering where they were and what they looked like when we saw them in San Antonio compared to the team we saw last night, it's at least worth the discussion. Maurice Clarett's going to be here. We're playing No Fence Riders. That's where we definitively make a bold statement about Saturday's game between the Browns and the Raiders. And Aditi will be here to talk about, do we know, is Aditi doing the Browns-Ravens game? I meant to ask her that when she was on earlier this week.
I do not believe so, but we'll get confirmation when she joins us at about noon.
Yeah, that would have been a good game to see her on, just because of her knowledge of both sides. But we're going to start with Cleveland Browns talk and a hot debate that we scratched the surface of yesterday. But before we do, McNuggets has some business to take care of. A Browns Talk sponsor.
We do. Browns
Big
Talk
news.
is now brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College. Tri-C supports their students financially, professionally, and personally, while also opening up the doors of endless possibilities. Tri-C, where the future starts, and it starts right now. Classes begin January 17th, 2023. Tri-C, we appreciate you guys. And also, we want to mention, we're doing an Ultimate Sports Show giveaway where you get some really cool signed memorabilia from some former Cleveland Browns. Let's take tag board full here, Steve. Leroy Horde, DeQuell Jackson, Tim Couch, signed mini helmets and footballs signed by those three. You can find the link to enter that contest on our YouTube page. It's wkyc.com/contest. You have to subscribe to be entered. So do that and win some really cool memorabilia to give out during the holiday season.
Very nice. Now, are each helmet signed by all three, or are they signed individually?
You get one helmet per.
I got it. Cool. Oh, wow. Very nice.
So 3 helmets, 3 mini footballs in this prize.
And let's welcome Tri-C to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show family.
Let's give a round of applause. What's up, Tri-C?
Thrilled to have
Tri-C.
Tri-C in the roster.
My wife worked
Very
for
good.
Tri-C for a number of years. It's a great university, whatever. It's not a university, college, but
Secondary education.
yeah, it's great that they give people that can't afford to go to a 4-year school an opportunity to get 2 years of legitimate college with great professors. They have a particularly good nursing program there. I know that they're really good. And they have sports teams, too.
They do.
I started at community college. I did 2 years.
Did you really?
Yeah. That's where I started. Saved thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
It is
great.
a very smart
Yes.
route. It is. And it, particularly now, Bernie Kosar is doing some work with sort of alternative education corporations. Tech schools are now a very wise choice.
Yeah, sure.
Get a trade and be set for life. Go into these community college systems, which sets you up for, if you want to go the 4-year university route, why spend 4 years of exorbitant fees when you can get by much cheaper for 2 years at a place like Tri-C?
Yeah.
Transfer those credits because they do.
That's right.
And then finish the bag
exactly
I mean, Ohio State costs you a fortune.
Guys, I am stunned. Absolutely stunned at the cost of education.
That's
right
crazy.
Now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're going to have to, I don't know what the answer is. They're going to have to do something. It's getting out of
I
control.
can't remember
It's
the
absurd.
school. It's a
the school I went to, by the way.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off.
Emerson, right?
Yeah, Emerson College.
Very expensive college.
And I had a basketball scholarship, so
Right.
I got a little. If it costs what it costs now in 2011 when
Do
I
you
went to
know
college,
what it costs now?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Is it like in the $75,000 to $80,000
Yeah, it's exactly
range?
in that range.
Because most of your
Unaffordable.
Northeast really exclusive schools, you're not sniffing them for under $75,000 a year.
Unaffordable now.
It's a racket.
I can't understand
it. It ain't even close. It's a racket. So basically, they tell you because you got to go to school. I had to do it. Now you got to do it at a more inflated cost.
Yeah.
And if you check the wages, if you check the salaries, if you check the benefits,
They're not going up.
They're not going up.
Like the cost of college is.
No,
They're actually going down and being minimized, and most of the jobs are no longer here or they're pipe dreams. So you got to go to 5. And if I'll talk to some doctors. My friend's an anesthesiologist, right? He's supposed to be making all the money. He said, man, you know how much I'm coming out just for the room, just for
insurance.
my insurance.
Anesthesiologists are incredible.
Consultations, or even if I'm doing different visits or any visits that I'm doing before, I'm paying for all of that stuff. And I got 6 years, 7 years of college. And I'm
debt.
And debt. And I'm paying for my wife, too. So they're like, I'm not rich. He's like, thank God for American Express.
Yeah, well, that's what you're living on plastic. All right, so thanks again to Tri-C for joining the family. We're looking forward to them being a productive sponsor. We hope the relationship is mutually beneficial to them as it is to us. Let's talk Cavs. This was something that we sort of, I think we stumbled upon it yesterday, and I wish...
Browns, you mean?
Browns, what I say,
yeah.
Cavs.
Yeah.
I wish Tyvis was here because... Tyvis is the one that threw this grenade into our text chain yesterday.
No, it was G. Bush.
Oh, it was you.
I threw it, and then
And
left.
then Tyvis was the
And
first
then
to
Tyvis-
respond.
Tyvis, okay.
He landed
So
on the
go ahead
mortar.
and say what your text was to the group.
I just threw it out there. I said, is 3 years enough time to evaluate a head coach?
And let's just boil down that statement alone. Let's not get into the semantics of Kevin Stefanski's 3-year situation.
Yeah, right. 3
Let's
years
just
in
talk
general.
about, in general, guys, do you
Yeah.
think 3 years is enough?
Guys, I don't think 3 years, I don't think any time is enough for outsiders to really evaluate the job a coach does. I think 3 years is enough for guys in the building, like in theory, Jimmy Haslam or a team owner or a team general manager or the CEO of the team. Like, I think 3 years is enough for those guys because they know the inner workings.
Right.
We on the outside, we're
don't
just
know.
making our best guess based on parts of knowledge. We may have a contact on the team. We watch the team. We have some insight. Jason goes to the games, is able to talk to players and coaches. We have some level of information more than the average fan. Jason and the people that are in the locker room more than the rest of us. I know G has some connections with some of the players.
But you would believe then
But-
that the owner
but
is equipped to
in theory,
make a
yes.
judgment after 3 years.
I
Jason,
think
do you
so,
agree
yeah.
with that?
I think it's too complicated a question to give a
It
yes
is
or no
very
answer because is 3 years enough to evaluate Ron Rivera or Mike McCarthy, who've been doing it for 15 years?
Right.
Is it enough to evaluate Kevin Stefanski, who's only been doing it 3 years? These guys make mistakes, and especially early on, especially first-time coaches. And they have to learn from their mistakes, and they do, and they get better. Theoretically, they get better the longer that they're in the role. And they realize first year, probably should have done that. Second year, probably shouldn't have staggered the practices that way. Something as simple as that.
Right.
GMs especially, I know we're talking coaches, but GMs make mistakes in the draft, especially their first time doing it. And theoretically, they get better as it goes. And progress, I remember talking to Dan Gilbert about this after the Cavs won the championship. Progress isn't always like this. Progress a lot of times is like this. And you think, okay, you're going to learn, you're going to be better in year 2 than you were year 1, you'll be better in year 3 than you are year 2. Sure, theoretically that sounds right. It just doesn't always work out that way.
So if we were playing no fence rider, you would say, yes, 3 years is enough. Jason, it sounds like you're a no.
I'm a no.
Yeah. G. Bush, you asked the question, is 3 years enough?
I really wasn't even trying to be like divisive. I was just wondering.
You were asking a question.
Because I flip-flop between them. Like, I could see, if you look at the guys who have been with Kevin Stefanski in his class, you look at it, 2 of them already gone, right? I think
Joe Judge and Matt Rule both fired.
Yeah, and they was trying to go after Rule last year.
Right.
Like, so I'm trying to figure out what it is, what's the correlation? Is it wins? Is it a feel? Is it how he handles the press conference?
It's everything.
It's a lot of things
Yeah.
that go into it, but I would, if 55-45 say yes.
So no fence rider, you saying yes?
Yes, 3 years now
Is enough.
It is enough if you're really paying attention.
Which means he's got 4 more games for you to make up your mind.
Yes.
Well, let me clarify my answer a little bit, too, because
I tried to put you in a box, too,
Yes,
on that. I mean,
yes.
I understand that there's nuance to that
Right,
answer,
and
but I'm trying to just get a definitive,
yes.
is it or not, in
And
general.
my definitive answer would be yes. However, and I've said this before, here's how I feel about coaches. I think don't get caught up in the exact number, but there's a few coaches, 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe some years 2, whatever. I think there's a few coaches that are great, and I think there's a few coaches that clearly suck. Yeah. And then I think there's 20-some-odd coaches that are somewhere in the middle, depending on their talent, depending on their experience, depending on all this, that, may, as Jason says, may get better. I think after 3 years, I think you might know if a guy's in that crap category. And if he's in that crap category, then he's gone.
Punt.
Right?
We needed 1 year to know if Freddie was in that category.
Right.
1 year.
Well, in his case, 1 year.
2 games.
I don't even think we needed a year. And maybe there are some cases, I think it's harder to do this, that you know somebody's in the elite category after 3 years.
I think you knew about Sean McVay. I think we knew about John Gruden. I think there are examples that do come up.
Right. But the guys that are in that middle 20, and I think right now I would say Kevin is in that middle 20, which is the majority of coaches. I think with those guys, if you feel like, okay, he's in this group and I think he can keep trending up, then I stick with him.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they're going to do. But I do think the last 4 games could play a role for him specifically.
I think your nuanced answer is very good. I think it kind of is in line with what I'm thinking. In this particular, I know I said in general, is 3 years enough?
Yeah.
And I would say in general, if we're going to speak in general terms, it is not. And the reason is for what you said, Jason. There are so many outside factors as to what goes on, particularly when you're talking about a first-time head coach. You can think you're good at clock management, but until you're doing it and real bullets are firing, anybody that's done a difficult job for the first time, that watched it for a long time and thought, I'm ready, and I would equate that to me being a live television sportscaster. I watched it a lot before I actually did it, and I thought, I'm ready. But once you sit in the chair and you've got 2 voices in your ear constantly changing the roadmap, and stories are dying, and time is has something to do with it. We're killing this story. Yeah. You got 30 extra seconds, stretch. You think you're ready for that, but I was a deer in headlights for a number of years. I don't know at what point I turned, and all of us probably can relate to that. Jason, when it came to hitting deadline, you had done it. When it's for real.
The night of the Ohio State-Miami National Championship game, the double overtime game, I had like 17 versions of the story on my screen. It was like, what am I doing?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But now, if you were in that situation, through experience, you understand how to boil that down to 2 or 3.
Yep.
You understand how to work each one of those as the game is progressing.
Yep.
And you can hit your deadline a lot sooner. And the same for all of us in what we do. And I think I'm afraid that now, all of the coaches not all of them, but the vast majority that they have brought in and then cut bait with have never gone on to do unbelievably great things. There have been Kyle Shanahans. There have been guys that were in positions that maybe were passed up. I think McDermott was a guy that was passed up. But we haven't brought a coach in and fired him and then watched him go win a Super Bowl. Other than Belichick, which was long ago.
That's true. However, none of those guys, and maybe none of them are any good. I'm not saying they are. I didn't love any of them. But
none of them
won. But were any of them given a chance?
You're going to laugh.
Everybody, when you ask this question, because I always ask this question, the question when you say, well, who was so great that they let go that got a bad rap? I think everybody says Mike Pettin. And because Mike Pettin got Johnny Manziel forced on him, he did have a 7-4 record. He did have Hoyer, but they brought back, they had Manziel, they forced him to play him, and then he had, with Josh Gordon, and then the Shanahan at coordinator, that fell apart. Yeah. And so it was kind of like, well, I could kind of see where people would say that wasn't his fault. Right. Who'd you like?
Eric Mangini.
He wasn't bad.
Now, I think the reason I'll say
he didn't have
Eric,
a lot of talent to work with at all.
No, he did not. And I thought he overachieved. I think with Eric, because I got to know him so well, working closely with him after the experience at ESPN and watching his knowledge, and I've worked with a lot of former coaches, and they all impressed me, but none of them impressed me in terms of acumen, the way he sees the game, more than Eric Mangini. I think Eric got caught up in the idea of trying to be Bill Belichick.
All those guys did.
They all did. And if you look at Belichick's assistants that have gone on, it's head-scratching why his tree hasn't had far more success, but they have not. Yeah. And that's a testament to Bill and how good he is. People that have worked with both have told me the person of all of those people that have come through, and there have been dozens, Eric Mangini was the one closest to Bill in acumen, in IQ. I think Eric got labeled as a guy that couldn't get it done because of his time here. I would love to see Eric get another chance. and I don't know that I haven't talked to him about this specifically recently, but I just think that Eric can do it. And I think he could be a very, very, very good head coach. And I think his career got derailed by his time here. Toxic soil killed another one.
Absolutely could be the case.
I think one thing that has hampered all of them is people skills. Like, there's a certain part where
I think he lacked in that with the players.
If you go listen to him and you listen to Pat Shurmur, I think Pat Shurmur is a very bright, button-up football guy. But
They all are.
They all, right?
To reach to that level, they all are.
Sure.
And they're putting in crazy hours. But here's the thing. Even when people laugh about Freddie Kitchens, I always go back and tell them, Freddie Kitchens got the most out of Odell Beckham Jr. He had 1,000.
Yeah.
Jarvis Landry had 1,000. He had 1,000-yard running back, too. Like, it wasn't like he was completely garbage.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you the difference between the top and the mid-tier levels.
That's right.
Now, I think it also goes to philosophy, like Bull says. Do you believe that if there is a bunch of coaches in the middle area, right, do you believe that a mid-tier coach with a good roster can win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
I think absolutely. It's happened. We've seen it.
So if that's what you believe, then you have less of an emphasis on saying, I need to get rid of the coach. But if you believe you got to have a franchise quarterback and a top-tier coach, then sometimes people get.
But I think it's
you
an
gotta have
outlier,
one or the
though.
other.
I think it's an outlier when you do it. The guy that I would bring up is Doug Peterson. I don't think Brian Billick was especially a great head coach. He had an all-time great defense. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, if you start rattling off the Super Bowl champions and you look at the last 20, which are what I would really consider the modern era, they're, for the most part, won by coaches that you would call great.
But are we calling them great because they won the Super Bowl?
No, I think we're calling them great because their body of work.
Right.
So for 6 of them,
Yeah.
we look at the guru, the GOAT, the best to ever do it, in my mind anyhow. And he's no doubt great. But others that have won in that era, for the most part, are guys that most would consider to be not just one-hit wonders. I think Peterson and Billick were one-hit wonders. But
you want to go
outside
back
of that,
to the last 20 real quick?
sure.
Just for fun?
Go ahead.
McVay last year.
I think he's a great head coach. I do.
agree.
He's elite.
Bruce Arians.
But you know what? I don't think Bruce Arians is a great head coach. But, like,
Well, he
I
had
don't
an
think the
all-time great quarterback.
Sean McVay is obviously a better coach than Zach Taylor, right? But I don't think the Rams won the Super Bowl because Sean McVay outcoached Zach Taylor. I just think they won the Super Bowl because the Bengals' offensive line ultimately wasn't good enough.
I'm just saying, let's go through the 20. Let's
Go
just see
ahead.
how
Yeah.
many are true
Do we,
outliers.
I don't know that we would put Arians in
Arians is not.
in the
No,
great
I would not.
category.
I would not.
He was
Definitely
great
not.
at what he did. I thought he was a great offensive
coordinator.
mind.
I thought he was a great
And
coordinator.
by the way, he had an all-time great quarterback.
Gotta have one
When
or the
you look
other.
at Peterson and Billick, they did it with Trent Dilfer and
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles,
That's
for
crazy.
crying out loud.
Well, and the Ravens, it was a different. The sport was
All-time great
different then,
defense.
and
Yeah.
that was outside of the '85 Bears, probably the best defense
Right.
ever.
Okay. Andy Reid.
Yes.
All-time great.
Great
no
coach.
question.
Belichick, great.
Yes.
Doug Peterson.
No.
No.
Belichick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gary Kubiak.
No.
No.
And that was with Peyton Manning.
Yes, it
and that-
was.
that-
Although,
Again,
in fairness,
all-time-
Peyton was
Manning
not good
wasn't
that year.
great at that point.
And they didn't win the Super Bowl necessarily, in my view, because of him.
right. He was
Defense.
he was
The
Pretty
defense.
good.
He was good, but he
I-
wasn't elite Peyton Manning.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, so the two that we've gotten to so far outside of Peterson, in Arians and Kubiak,
Crazy
did it with
quarterbacks.
Brady and
guys that are arguably top 2 or 3 quarterbacks
Hall
all
of
time.
Fame quarterbacks.
So they
yeah.
can overcome some coaching deficiencies. Who else?
Yes.
Pete Carroll.
I think Pete is.
I don't put him in the great. I put him in very good.
He's made
Pete-
some all-time bonehead decisions.
If he hands the ball off, he's one of the greats.
He's an all-time great college coach. I don't think he's an all-time.
I
great.
don't
You know
think
what's
so either.
interesting to me about that? The reason I would say he is a great head coach, if I made a list of guys that I consider to be great head coaches, even though he's made some of the most colossal bonehead decisions of all time, because it's not just if he hands the ball off. If he has his Heisman Trophy winning Reggie Bush in the game instead of Lendale White, they pick up the first down, and Vince Young never gets to pull one of the all-time great comebacks, so he's got another national championship. I think if you've won a college national championship and a Super Bowl,
You're elite.
Jimmy
I'll give you
Johnson,
that.
elite.
I'll give you that.
Great.
I think when you look at Pete Carroll, we'll see how it ends up this year. But this year has made him look better.
It
Because
has.
His team was supposed to be trash, and they've been good. Now they've been falling apart lately,
Right.
and could miss the playoffs. And Russell Wilson, who everybody thought was great, has been crap without him.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, who else?
Couple more here. That was Pete Carroll. We have John Harbaugh with Baltimore.
I
Yes,
do.
I think he's a great
consider him
coach.
elite.
Tom Coughlin.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't. I think he's. To me, he's level 2 with Pete Carroll.
He's won multiple Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
And
that's why I put him in the great category.
And he
because
was
that
a
list
good-
is very
He's
small.
right on that.
he's a
fringe
good
for me.
college. He was
I
a
think
good
he's
college
Pete
College
Carroll.
coach, and he had success in Jacksonville.
I think he's the second level with Pete Carroll for me.
Okay.
He's fringy, elite.
Certainly better than
We're
Belichick and
splitting
Peterson.
hairs here.
I think we are splitting hairs
And
here.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta think about it. If you say the New York Giants, that doesn't pop off as the greatest talented team ever. Like, oh wow, Giants were a juggernaut. Like,
No,
that
they weren't.
particular Super Bowl,
but by
by
the way, they had
they
a
beat
Hall of Fame
Belichick.
quarterback for both of their Super Bowl wins.
and they beat the 19-0 team. He has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if I had to go fence rider on Coughlin, I would put him in.
Yeah.
Who else?
By the way, this is controversial, but I would not vote for Eli Manning for the Hall of Fame. I know he's
wrong.
getting
We're
in,
not
but I
gonna- we're not
wouldn't.
gonna
Wow.
get to that.
That is controversial.
We'll do that as an overtime.
We'll do that. We'll do that in an off season, on a
Yeah.
boring day in the off season.
Yeah.
I will fight that hill. Bull, me and
Yes.
you
I
will
will
box.
too.
Even
I'll
though
take
I
Jay's
like
chair.
I like Eli a
We'll
lot,
box.
but I
I
do
mean, I'll literally get out the box.
There-
and go
there
behind
are-
the set.
That's your
We'll
favorite
box.
player of all time.
My
right?
favorite athlete. I would die for you.
From that era, there's a lot of middlings like Phillip Rivers,
Don't put Eli in that category.
guys that
I'll fight you too, Jay.
Eli's not any better than Phillip
He
Rivers.
was also
in
he
my
also
mind.
won 2 MVPs. He was the MVP of both Super Bowls,
He
if
was.
I'm not mistaken.
If
So
it
I
wasn't for
just-
the miracle David Tyree catch, is he a Hall of Famer?
No, but you know what? Think about what happened on the front end of that play. Eli should have been sacked.
Escapability.
He should have been.
He also put that in the only place that Tyree could catch it while getting hit. It was that was exactly how they drew that play up. There was no luck
he
in
played
that.
the
No.
That's how they drew it up.
he played the greatest game of his life, dog.
That drive was incredible.
You know what's
fact-
amazing? I know this is a little silly to say, but besides those 2 Super Bowls, I'm pretty sure Eli Manning never won a playoff game.
That is a fact.
That is true.
That
He
is
won all
wild.
of his playoff games in their 2 Super Bowl runs.
Yeah.
Also, his throw to Manningham on the sideline in the second Super Bowl
Yes.
was actually a better play than the helmet catch.
That's true.
Yeah, probably.
We'll have a whole. I'll fight Bull and G 2-on-1 on an Eli Manning
I
debate.
think you fight
He's-
me and G.
he's
2-on-1 to get
borderline.
your ass
He's
beat.
borderline.
But you are going to lose that debate because Eli
Well,
is the
he's
Hall of
going
Famer.
to the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame. I
yeah,
acknowledge
yeah,
that.
he's borderline.
All right, we got some other coaches.
Okay.
Keep going.
Mike McCarthy with Green Bay.
No.
Well, he did it with an all-time great quarterback. So
Yes.
all of these coaches that we're saying no about, with the exception of Billick and Peterson,
Yeah.
did it with all-time great quarterbacks.
So you
Yes.
got it.
So you better have an all-time great quarterback
or all-time
a
great
coach that's either elite or borderline elite.
There's only 3
Yeah, you
more.
got to
so
have one or the other.
Let's go 3 more.
Let's run through the last 3 here real quick. Sean Payton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
They
so.
had
I don't
both.
think so.
Yeah,
That's the
both.
point I was making earlier. He had a Hall of Fame quarterback. Do we know he's a good coach, or did he have a Hall of Fame
Well, we
quarterback?
may find out
That's
because
exactly
he's
the
going to coach
point I
again.
was
So
making
we
a
will
month ago.
find out
Yeah.
if he's But
Yeah.
again,
Yes.
top 5 quarterback
Yes.
of
Again,
all time.
again, to me, he's Pete Carroll and Coughlin.
But here's
a
why-
notch below
here's-
these other
here's-
guys.
Okay, and that's fair. I can see that.
Here's why I will call
Now,
him.
certainly not a bad coach, but,
No.
you know.
The way
He's going to be sought after when he comes out
the-
on the market officially.
there was about 4 years the way he was scheming stuff up, where nobody wasn't getting 5-10 quarterbacks, putting them in 5 wide, and because you got to think Drew Brees coming out of college was a they was throwing the ball all over Purdue.
Didn't he start the second half of his Super Bowl win with an onside kick?
He did.
He sure did.
That might be one of the ballsiest, smartest calls I've ever seen.
I don't
Unless it
even-
doesn't work, then everybody's calling him an
And
idiot.
plus, they just
But it
had-
did work, and it worked, and he knew it was going to work because he had seen that they were already turning before the ball was
Yeah.
on the kicker's foot.
Yeah, because who expects that? I mean, that was
Nobody.
crazy.
But he took advantage of
Yeah.
that, and that's what great coaches do.
I
have
he's
him
in
in
there.
my great column.
He's
in the great
to
for
me.
Who
you.
else?
Last, then we have Coughlin's first one where they knocked off
Right.
the undefeated Patriots.
Yeah.
Tony Dungy.
Yep.
All-time
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
No
All-time
question.
great.
Yeah.
And he did it, by the way, with an all-time great defense, but a Brad Johnson mediocre kind of Trent
Yeah.
Dilfer-esque quarterback.
And then I don't know who they really. Well, did they have Bob Sanders that year they went in Indianapolis?
They did,
Okay,
yeah.
they had a decent.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, I'm
last
sorry.
one-
I said Dungy did it with Johnson,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Brad Johnson. I'm thinking of Gruden in
Right,
Tampa
right.
Bay.
Dwight
Yeah, so this so
Yeah,
Gruden
he
won.
did it with Peyton Manning,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of
He
course.
did with Peyton Manning, yes.
But
so
I
this
think
is the
that's
last one
great
here.
coach, great quarterback.
Bill Cowher.
Yes.
Great, no
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
So I think what we've determined here is that
Well, you forgot about Mike Tomlin. He won a
the
Super Bowl.
vast majority,
Who
not
said
in the last.
Tomlin?
No,
No,
we
you
didn't mention.
You
did
didn't
mention
mention
Yeah, we
Tomlin.
skipped over Tomlin.
What
Oh,
do we-
then I skipped over Tomlin.
Where do we
Tomlin
put
was in that
Tomlin?
list.
I don't put him in great. I put him
put him
again.
at Pete Carroll
I
category.
put him
I
in the
do,
Carroll in that second level
Yeah.
for me.
But what's interesting is
Yeah.
And that's why, because I feel like he and Peyton, like, They won, and then everybody said they were great, and then they didn't do much for a long time after that.
But, see, but here's the thing. He has one, and old boy got one, right? Harbaugh got one, right? But, I mean, I feel like they're the same. Like, Harbaugh did it when he had...
Harbaugh did it with Joe Flacco.
I mean, but he had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis.
Right.
That is a cheat code. Like, you can't have both of them.
So the way you're doing it, if you're... First of all, the vast majority of those were won by coaches we all agree are elite coaches. Then there's the next biggest group, which is probably 30% of those names, are coaches that we would say are really, really good, if not great, but not all-time great or elite. All of them did it with one of the following: Hall of Fame top 5 quarterback or all-time great defenses.
Except for the Eagles with Peterson. They didn't have either of those.
No, I don't.
They had a good defense,
and by
but
the
it wasn't
way,
an
they
all-time
beat Brady
great.
and Belichick.
That Eagles team, top to bottom, roster-wise,
was very solid.
It was really good.
Unbelievably loaded. Carson Wentz was in the second year, so they weren't paying a quarterback. Nick Foles was cheap. Their defensive line, their offensive line.
And Foles, and the thing is...
And Foles was magical.
Foles, like Flacco, when they won the Super Bowl with Flacco, and Eli, but Eli's a much better player than those guys.
But they had
Foles
magical runs.
and Flacco were unbelievable in those postseason runs. They played like Hall of Famers for that month.
Even when I was growing up, even when teams got in, like when the Patriots got in, what was that, 80 when they played
Steve
the 85?
Grogan.
Teams like that, they never played above their, like, you knew who was going to win.
Yeah.
Like, you just.
Oh, you knew they had no chance against the Bears.
At least, like, if a team came in with a terrible quarterback and they was playing like Elway, or there was games where what is it, the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Birds, you knew they was getting smoked immediately. Foles played like he was a Hall of Famer.
He did.
But again, you're talking about like
outliers.
Yeah, you're betting on magic beans.
Yeah.
Like the blueprint we're talking about is, I think, more standard of
if you're looking for the easiest path to a Super Bowl, and isn't that what every team is doing? Mm-hmm. The easiest path to a Super Bowl is to have an all-time great head coach.
See, I disagree with that, even though I think that's the second most important thing.
You want an all-time great quarterback.
I think that's more important.
I'm with both.
I'm with quarterback.
You're taking the quarterback.
I'll take the quarterback.
But I gave
Belichick
you guys
is proving it. What have the Patriots done since Tom Brady left? He's a 500 coach. Boston radio's talking about firing him.
I know
they want him fired.
I heard that Monday.
I think that's crazy. I think he's actually doing a good job because I think Mac Jones sucks. So I think he's doing a decent job having them a game over 500 right now.
But I'm just saying.
And I obviously
they're entitled.
Brady went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl like that.
Next year.
So
New England.
And by the way, the Buccaneers did not make the playoffs the previous year.
That's
right. So yeah, I mean,
so
if you have a Brady, and I'm not going to say a great quarterback, but Brady is the guy that changes all
the
of
entire
this.
franchise.
I mean, he took a team that did not make the playoffs. He showed up, and the next year they're holding the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah. So the Eagles are the only team since the Belichick or the Billick Ravens, which was a a long, how many years ago?
Big
20
outlier,
years
and it was at the front end of that 20 years ago.
Right. So since that team, the Eagles are the only team to win without either a great quarterback or a great coach.
Yeah.
So
don't bank on that because
it's like the Pistons team that won the title.
Right.
Everyone wants to say, look, you can win without. I'm like, okay, fine. If you want to bet those magic beans once every 25 years.
So if you extrapolate it out, do you think, so right now, if you had to ask, would you say, well,
do we have the quarterback?
The Browns have a good quarterback and a good coach?
I think they have a great quarterback and a good coach.
Well, that's
now he's not playing great right now.
Well, but that's what the point I was going to make is that's why they went and got Deshaun Watson, because they know the exact same things. Jimmy Haslam looked at the quarterback and said, it's not good enough. We have to do better. For all the people who love Baker and loved what he did here, ownership looked at that and said, we have to do better at the quarterback position, and that's why they threw a grenade into this organization in March, and that's exactly what it was. It was a grenade that they threw into the organization.
And shrapnel's still flying everywhere.
And think about the 49ers, right? They got a great coach.
Yeah.
They have a great GM. They have had excellent defenses.
Good defense.
They've had an excellent offensive line.
I think the most balanced roster in the NFL, with maybe the exception of the Eagles right now.
And they've been competitive almost every year, except for one.
They have not had the quarterback.
But they have not been able to win ultimately because they didn't have the quarterback.
I think that's fair.
And they won't. And they probably won't win again this year, as good as they are. Besides him,
real quick, while we're talking about coaches,
I'm not sure about that, by the way.
I need to clarify one thing that I said on Monday. And I just sort of twisted over my words, and I guess someone sent it to me. I guess this became a little bit of a thing on Twitter. I said Paul DePodesta wanted Robert Saleh, and I should have said he liked Robert Saleh, and there's a difference in the two. He did like him. But everyone in the Browns was in full agreement, and I think I said at a different point on Monday's show, they got their top choice in Kevin. Kevin was the top choice of the organization, and he was.
I wondered when you said that. I thought, wait a minute. I always thought Stefanski was their
By
guy.
me saying Paul wanted Saleh, it became this thing of like, oh, look, they weren't in agreement.
They settled for their,
Yeah, they were in agreement. Everybody in the organization wanted Kevin, and Kevin was here before Andrew. Like, I still think that's really important to note in terms of, is Kevin going to be fired? Everyone talks about that. Nobody talks about AB. I'm pretty certain nobody's going anywhere between those three.
I agree with you. I don't think anybody's going anywhere
Paul,
either.
Andrew, and Kevin are all going to be back next year, barring some catastrophic collapse over this last 4 games. But I want to make clear, I don't want anyone to think that I was trying to. Paul wanted Kevin. He wasn't
Robert. The second choice.
Right, he wasn't the second choice. The only point I was trying to make is Paul's a pretty good identifier of head coaches because he liked Saleh. He did want Sean McDermott, and they chose Kevin. So that's why I look at the success McDermott's had in Buffalo, the success Saleh's having now in New York, and saying, guys, obviously they're pretty good at identifying this. So when we say is 3 years enough, well, it's been 3 years with an absolute grenade thrown into the whole franchise in March, which I think changes the parameters.
And I talked about all those outside factors that you have to take into consideration. I think this is why 3 years is absolutely not enough here. Mm-hmm. He's had, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 starting quarterbacks. He had
right?
Baker. He had Case Keenum. Wasn't there a game where Keenum couldn't play and we had
It was the guy
the Raiders?
the Raiders game.
Yeah.
Mullins.
Yep.
Mullins, Baker, and then
Keenum closed out the year.
yeah, and then this year he's had
Brissett,
2.
Yeah.
So that's 5 starting quarterbacks in fewer than 3 seasons. The other thing, the reason I don't think we can judge this yet, because of the disruption that this organization underwent, you're stopping the experiment short if you don't see this through with a full season with Kevin Stefanski. Because to your point that Deshaun Watson looked at what Stefanski does and said, I can play in that system. I can win in that system. It has been the injuries, and I know we don't use injuries as an excuse, and I really don't like to use injuries as an excuse, but sometimes you can't ignore that elephant in the room. When you look at the injuries that this team suffered from jump, first of all, they addressed their return game. Gone before the season started.
Yeah, but every team has injuries.
I know
the Browns don't have more than most.
I think you're wrong on that.
No, I know for a fact they're not in the top 5.
I mean, this year at linebacker, if you want to be specific, even Joe Woods
Yeah, but
said
I
yesterday.
I just saw the
never
list
seen
of
a
the
Is
top
there
5
another team that's lost 4? Their top 4 linebackers?
Their linebackers weren't that good anyway.
Well, I know, but Bull, it doesn't matter if they're not that good. That
But
means
Jay,
the players
they just-
behind them are even worse.
I know, but they just lost 3 of the 4 in the last 2 weeks. It wasn't
I
like
know,
they've been out for the
they
whole year.
lost the linchpin right away. AWOL was gone early in the season.
But every team has injuries. The Browns don't have more than anybody else.
Bull,
they don't.
I don't know that they don't.
No,
I
I'm
don't
telling
know.
you. I saw there's a thing as a
They're
site
not
up-
top 5 in total
They're not
injuries.
top 5.
And if you look at like
I don't know where they are, but
specific
they're not top 5.
positions, the Niners are on their 3rd string quarterback.
I mean,
No, I know.
yeah.
So obviously at quarterback, that's the one that everybody wants to look
The
at. but we
Ravens
didn't
have
use
had
that.
way more injuries than
We
the
didn't
Browns.
use that as an excuse last year, and so I don't think another team can use that as an excuse this year. For me, Jason, am I wrong? It just seems like when you're talking about a 4th string center, that is that's the most pivotal position on the offensive line.
I would actually-
He's calling out the signals.
I would actually go a different way with it and say, I mean, everybody dealt with COVID, right? Everybody had to deal
Right.
with COVID. But Kevin was a first-year head coach trying to navigate through COVID and installing his system over Zoom. And then they went through his second year where basically it was a boycott of OTAs because J.C. Treader led the boycott and they had no off-season program.
Right. This
was actually his first year of normalcy, but it wasn't really normal because of Deshaun. And that grenade that was thrown in. And it sounds like I'm trying to make excuses for him, and maybe I am. But I have seen enough, especially in year one, when there was nobody else in the building, and it was just football. Look what they did. And then
Yeah,
when
but that's not going to happen again.
I know, and that's the part that concerns me. But I've seen, I think that there's, now I will acknowledge, and I talked to Zach Jackson about this, my coworker at The Athletic, in a lot of areas, it looks like they're regressing, and that is very concerning. Like, it looks like they're worse now than they were in 2020 in some different areas.
If he's,
I would agree with that.
And that's concerning.
Very concerning.
if he's going to lean on Deshaun Watson, what he's going to have to do is all those teams that we just mentioned there, he's going to have to open it up. He's going to have to give him a lot of responsibility of saying, hey, this is we're going to lean on what you do. Right now, I think they're trying to be they're I guess you're a man with no country at this point, because you used to be a solid, you used to be heavy run. I don't know if you're going to be heavy run with Deshaun Watson. You used to be downhill zone running. I don't know if you could be that person with Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson. So this offseason, the reason I'm leaning towards giving him another shot is because I really, truly believe he's going to have to revamp 75% of his offense.
Do you think the offense is having an identity crisis then?
Well,
built to go one way, but now forced to pivot?
Yes, because it looks like there's no flow, there's no continuity.
Do you buy
to
that,
it.
Jay?
I was actually reading a text. I didn't hear.
So
It was a good text from Earl. I'm going to bring it up in a second.
his premise was we were built to be a run team and a zone run team, and now that you've pivoted at quarterback, it's clear that you're going to be something else. Is the offense?
I don't know. I've heard you guys screaming all year long that they didn't run the ball enough. Now you're telling me they're built to run the ball.
Oh, well, Deshaun
Well, they are built to run the ball. That's why I was saying they didn't run the ball.
When
enough.
Watson got here, I said, "Oh, scrap all that." It's like he's going to be the best. He has to be the best player, not Nick Chubb no more. Like that was cool when you had secondary guys like Brissett or even Baker, but now he has to be your best guy. So yes, Nick Chubb is a great asset piece and a strong number 2. But it's like basketball. You ain't got a number 1. It's a wrap.
It's got to be the quarterback.
Got to.
$230 million. They're not paying Nick Chubb $230 million. They are, and again, I think that's where the suspension threw everything out of whack because I think they were expecting 4 to 6. They could install a different type of offense.
Yeah.
And then when it went to 11, guys,
They
it
just kept
changed
I think they
everything.
just kept what Brissett was doing and said we can't install nothing in the last 4, 5, 6 games.
Right.
Just run a couple plays here and there, but it's mainly the Brissett playbook.
That's why I'm anxious to see a full season with Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson with no outside distractions. Just bring us an offense that we think can be a top-tier NFL offense. And that's why I just don't think you can even entertain conversation about moving on from Kevin Stefanski.
I wouldn't, and I don't think they should. You never know with Jimmy, especially if they cradle in these final 4 games.
We could go on and on for another hour. I know we got to move on, but real quick, Earl texted me. We were talking about coaches. What about Chud? And Chud, I think, got a raw deal here. He was never the top choice. And
kinda.
Chip Kelly was the top choice. They couldn't get Chip. They settled on Chud. And I think the regime in place there wanted to move on from him because they didn't. I don't think he got a fair chance, and I think that probably soiled any chance he had in the future.
Was it Chubb when they got all them to 1,600 with old boy, Josh Gordon? Was that the 1,600 year?
I can't remember.
I don't know. They all run together.
Guys, we got tease memberships real quick, and as always, we do a 2-hour show Monday through Friday. We do 10 minutes to 15 minutes of extra content every day. For starters tier, you get these awesome emojis you can use whenever you want. For your coaches tier, you get that overtime content. But there's one other thing that we haven't been telling you guys about that we want to make sure you guys know. After the show ends, the conversation continues on our YouTube page on the community tab. We got over, Earl, you can scroll if the iPad's going to follow. We'll see if it does in a sec. We got over 32 comments on our poll question of the day. We're going to feature some of those later in the show. The conversation does not end when we go off the air. It's always ongoing. I guess the iPad's not going to work right now. It is what it is. Let's bring in Maurice. What's up, Maurice?
By the way, I'll be petty like Kevin Durant. I'll be all in them chats too. It'd be like 3 in the morning.
Really?
I'll be in the chat. Oh yeah, I stay in the comment section. They tell you as a seasoned journalist, I'm not a journalist. I'm an opinion person. So I could be in the comment section. Jay can't be in the comment section. But I will argue with you in the comment section. I do it all the time. And it's just good solid fun.
All right, good. Hang out. Be part of the family.
Drew Brees being hired as an interim assistant coach at Purdue.
So he didn't get struck by lightning. He's still alive.
Struck by lightning?
You didn't see that whole thing? He was shooting a commercial
fake.
for a gambling site.
He caught a lot of heat.
He caught a lot of, and you know what? I think rightfully so. It was a bad decision on Drew's part. Drew's normally a smart guy.
Never fake that you got hurt or you died.
Well, especially getting struck by lightning. That's a fatal event for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And making a commercial where it looks like you got struck by lightning. And by the way, when I first saw the video, I was like, damn, he got hit.
Yep.
And then
They did a good job.
they did a great job faking that he got hit by lightning, but he took some flack for that. That's an interesting tangent for him. I mean, for a while I thought he was going to be this top flight broadcaster.
Yeah. And
that was a bad experiment, one and done.
Yep.
We've had a lot of those. That should be a topic one day. Who is the worst transition athlete to broadcast of all time.
Well, you just got done saying how
Dennis
difficult
Miller.
it is. It's far more difficult than
It's
people
very
realize.
Well, from athlete, he's
Dennis,
an athlete,
Miller,
but
Dennis Miller's worst of all time.
Yeah,
disaster.
Dennis Miller was a bad hire.
I love
but
Tony Kornheiser, but he was terrible on Monday
Bad
Night Football.
experiment. Bad experiment. I think my worst, just from an athletic standpoint, was the old Rams running back, the goggles.
Eric
Eric Dickerson was not good.
Jerry Rice is
He
not
was
good.
a sideline reporter for Monday Night Football for a number of years. And
I don't remember that.
Who's the
Google
guy
it.
who somebody did the Browns in the last year? It's not is LeVar Arrington? No,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
pretty bad.
Lamar's pretty rough. Okay, hey Mo, what's
disrespect.
up, brother? How you doing, man?
Hey,
what up?
all is well.
You drank that Kool-Aid. It was rough tasting on Sunday, wasn't it?
Hey, respect.
Oh, I got friends who let me know I drank the Kool-Aid too.
Hey, Maurice. Hey, respectfully, bro. I had. Listen, my timeline was shut down, bro. My DMs, I had to close them up. I said, man, look, man, the Kool-Aid, I ran out of sugar. I'm so sorry. Like you was drinking this lemon water. Yeah, it was looking bad last week. It's a wrap.
By the way, Maurice, every morning, I don't know if you guys know this, every morning, late, I don't know how long you've been doing this. I've just noticed it for the last week or so, Maurice. Maurice tweets, he's like up at 5 in the morning. He tweets a picture of his Apple Watch or whatever it is. Like, come on, get moving. Well, I'm sitting on my ass watching TV at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Maurice is like, where are you guys? Everybody get moving.
Maurice never sits on his ass. I can tell you that right now.
You
He
get
is
up,
a body in motion.
how you getting up at 5? Well, you slick.
The only
You
tweet,
got-
it's the only tweets you see at 5 in the morning is his
cheating.
tweets and porn bots. That's about it.
He cheating. He's cheating because he got a newborn. He already up. He ain't went to sleep. That's the problem.
I get up in the morning, I get going, man. It's the morning time is like my personal time, and I feel like it's an uninterrupted day. So you like, if you condense the morning, so you get like from 4:30 or 5 to maybe like about 9. That's when I drop my son off at daycare. And then I'll do all the other stuff during the day. And then the back end of the day, before I go to bed, I'll still another 3 or 4 hours. So it's actually like 2 full days within one if you
What time you going to
think
sleep?
about doing it.
What time you go to
Like
sleep?
9 or 9:30, I'm usually in the bed.
Hey, Maurice, have you always been a morning person? Because I have found that some of the most productive people are. They get up really early and they start their day while most of us are still in REM sleep.
Yeah, so I get it. I have had over the years anxiety real bad, and I usually feel like when I'm chasing the day is because I'm like unprepared. And, once the day gets started, you're really doing all the stuff that you plan either the day before or the week before. But I'm like I'm in my basement and I have a bunch of whiteboards in this room back here. That's a whole room full of whiteboards that I write my entire life down. And I thought that's still going to show on ESPN, but that's literally my whole room is full of whiteboards. And writing helps me to get my anxiety down. So I come down, I write every day. I do a lot of visualization work, and that's because of that. And so the morning helps me to prepare myself, and then I work out, and I think that working out helps me to relax. And then that's kind of like my little personal routine, but it's
So
part
you're
of it.
highly organized, right?
Yeah, very organized.
Were you that way as a player?
Yeah, so I told you I wasn't like, there's a lot of people who have other physical attributes, but Tom McDaniels is who probably made me fall in love with studying football. And that's why sometimes when I talk, I don't think I talk out of my butt. I talk from just having like an understanding of what I think I see. And I do a bunch of film preparation. I used to do a bunch of film preparation, but understanding the game and understanding schematics and down and distance and other nuances, I think that I give like at least an educated opinion about football, even though it's a game. I think that, I have a decent opinion.
Man, that's fascinating. All right, we're going to do No Fence Rider. You ready to go? You always start us off, and then we see whether the group agrees or disagrees with you en masse. McNuggets, what do we have first?
Let's get the first one. This was specifically designed for Maurice, our resident running back in the house. Will J.K. Dobbins outrush Nick Chubb on Sunday? Maurice, what say you?
Hey, look, so you put me in a bind, right? So J.K. just hit me up the other week. So I hope he doesn't see this, but I'm a homer, and I'm going to still drink the Kool-Aid. So, no, I'm happy he had a great week last week, but I'm still going with Nick. I think my personal opinion, and this is not just me being biased, but I still think Nick is the best running back in the NFL. And, considering that, we go out and have a great game, but I think, Nick will outrush J.K.
Let's see how the rest of the panel answered. It was a 2-3 split. On one side of the fence is G and Tyvis. On the other side, Bull, Jason, and Jay. G, you said yes?
Yeah, but it's slim. It's slim. It's slim. The Ravens is running the ball well. J.K. looked like he finally back to that old J.K. Dobbins. And he one of them dudes that's too. I don't like tackling guys like him. He's stocky. He looked like he do squats on chest day. Like he just skips bench and just like I'm gonna do squats. I'm not doing no squats like that, but he's a powerful.
So does Nick.
Yeah, see, facts.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't think our offensive line is playing that well in terms of the run game. But I will say, it's at home. I think though it'll be a nasty weather game. I don't want to be outside during the tailgate. Good gracious.
The reason I said Chubb would have more, I think it's close. I mean, obviously the Ravens' run defense is much better than the Browns' run defense, which would lead you to believe Dobbins have a better game. However, Nick Chubb will get a good majority.
Wait, did you said Chubb will have more?
Yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right?
he said Chubb will have more.
Yeah.
He said Dobbins will outrush.
You said Chubb will have more also.
You said
Jay.
Chubb will have more too.
Oh man,
You did that by mistake?
Yeah, I got that one.
You think?
wrong.
Okay.
Hell no. I'll go this far. I'll tell you, Dobbins is going to have twice as many yards as Chubb.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here's why I think Chubb's going to have more yards. Because the Ravens split carries between 4 guys.
But they're not going to throw the ball.
He could get that. He could get that on 2 carries. He can get 80 on 2
Why?
carries.
Because he had his first good game in 2 years?
No, because he's
because
playing
our
the Browns.
defense is trash.
He's playing you, me, and Jason.
Hey.
Wait, I don't get to play?
No, you don't want no parts of this.
Yeah.
Jay was like, "Listen, I'm the coach today. You know, you guys, you ain't keeping me free enough."
Yeah, I'll tackle low, bro.
Nick Chubb's had 2 bad games in a row. I can't imagine he's going to have 3 bad games in a row. And he's going to get more carries than Dobbins.
I don't think this has anything to do with Chubb or Dobbins. I think this has everything to do with the Browns' offensive line and the Browns' defensive line.
But
and
Dobbins
linebackers.
shares carries with Drake. He shares carries with Gus Edwards. And Tyler Huntley. If Tyler Huntley plays, he'll run the ball too.
Yeah.
And there's going to be no. And if Tony Brown plays,
TV.
there's going to be zero threat of the pass.
That sound like a saxophone player outside of Tower City.
Yeah.
Hey, give it up for Tony Brown.
That's
Tony
the
Brown.
first person to ever call him Tony Brown.
No, I said yesterday we're not calling him Anthony Brown. We're calling him Tony.
I fully endorse that. I fully endorse
By
that.
the way, isn't the play-by-play guy for the
Jerry Sandusky.
the Monsters?
what
Tony
did you-
Brown? Isn't his name Tony Brown?
I don't know. Who in the hell do you listen to Monsters play-by-play?
I don't, but I met the guy before.
Oh.
But I think his name is Tony Brown.
What's going
memory.
on? We're talking about
My
Monsters
question, too, I'm
play-by-play.
gonna-
I mean, they are a
Talking about
professional
Jerry
team in
Sandusky.
Cleveland, for crying out loud.
I'm going to reel us back in here, guys. Question 2.
No, the Ravens play-by-play guy's name is Jerry.
Jerry Sandusky
That's
with a G.
crazy.
Yeah, with
Let's
the
throw
G.
the graphic
think
up
he
here,
changed
Steve.
that
I'm going to take his
No.
show back.
ESPN
Will
did a
David
piece on
Njoku
why he
have
didn't.
more receiving yards than Mark Andrews? Maurice, you're first.
I can't hear the question.
Will Njoku have more receiving yards than Mark Andrews? A battle of the tight ends.
Oh, yes. I'm going with Njoku.
Maurice says Njoku. The rest of the panel, Steve, says, let's take it. Another 2-3 split. Bull and G says Njoku has more. Jay, did you read this one backwards as well?
No, I'm just half dyslexic. Here's the thing on that.
You guys, you just said they're not going to throw the ball. So how's Andrews going to have more yards?
No, I don't think. I have almost no. I'm not drinking Kool-Aid. If the Kool-Aid was spiked, G and Maurice would be flat on their ass right
I'm
now.
a Kool-Aid.
Okay.
But wait a second. But if the Tony Brown plays for the Ravens,
Yes.
they're not going to throw.
It doesn't matter. Mark Andrews destroys them every year.
Mark
he actually
Andrews,
didn't hurt them.
He's not doing anything this
He
year.
had
it
0
doesn't
catches
matter.
in the first game.
It doesn't matter.
Watch
I was
him,
just
watch
gonna
him
say that.
light up this Browns defense.
The first game.
I
this
hope
year
so. I
between
got
Tony
the
Brown's going to be 9 for 9. All 9 throws are going to be to
Mark
Andrews, and it's going to be
Andrews.
for 120 yards.
The first game this year is the first time that Andrews didn't absolutely destroy the Browns. I don't see that continuing.
I think-
Mark Andrews always kills this
And I
team.
think for me, I am so pessimistic now because I've looked like a fool at portions of this year. I've tried the Kool-Aid, I sipped it, and then I spit it out. And right now, I'm not having any Kool-Aid.
I don't think this has anything to do with Kool-Aid. I'm just assuming, like you guys are, that the Ravens are barely going to throw the ball. So I don't think Andrews is going to have many yards.
My faith in this team is like a big pile of gasoline poured on a driveway on a hot summer day.
This is very dangerous.
It just evaporates right before your eyes.
This is a very dangerous game.
Mark Andrews since he's come back from injury, I don't think he's had more than 58 yards in a game.
I would much rather.
That might be enough.
I'd rather them be at 100% with Lamar Jackson, everybody, because what it sets up is if y'all correct and Mark Andrews comes out here with this Anthony Robinson guy, I don't even know his name, Anthony Robinson. Right.
Tony Brown.
Tony Brown.
Tony Brown. You were close.
You in trouble if they win. This is an all-time. This is a catastrophe if they lose to Tony Smith. If Tony Smith kills you, it's over.
What about Tony Jones?
And Tony Baker, too.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I have word that Tony Brown's an avid UCSS watcher, and he has now cut this up and put it on repeat on his picture frame in his locker, just repeating all the different
If he's watching us, he's in trouble.
Oh, no, he watches us every day.
He needs to be watching tape.
He watches us every day. All right, question number 3, guys. We're going to keep moving. Will anyone not named Myles Garrett record at least 1 sack versus the Ravens? Remember, Tony Jones, Robinson, Baker Jones is kind of mobile, but not really that mobile. Maurice, will anyone but Myles get him down on Sunday?
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, G. Let's say yes.
Even G's not drinking that Kool-Aid.
Maurice says yes. Is G on the same side of the fence, or is the Kool-Aid team split? Let's see. Well, the Kool-Aid man's going to have to bust through the fence to get on Maurice's
Well, at least
side.
Jay with me.
I'm with you, Mo.
See, here's the problem.
Blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while.
And no, every single time somebody other than Myles Garrett gets a sack, a penalty happens.
I thought an angel got his wings.
The Clowney was like, yes, I got home, psych.
Clowney was pissed, too, because he watched money go up in
they
smoke.
don't have
He's just chasing stats.
That's what it is,
Taven
right,
Bryan, who's garbage, is second on the team with 2.5 sacks.
Look at that.
That is pathetic.
That's rough. Hey, that's rough.
Jacob Phillips ain't played in months.
Maurice, we get a mulligan. I'm saying no. No one else. Myles Garrett gets a sack.
I've asked that question a bunch of weeks in a row, and anyone who said yes to that has been wrong.
Yes.
Multiple weeks in a row.
So the odds are somebody has to. It's a blind squirrel's got to get a nut here and there.
Who's the last player to get a sack besides Garrett?
It was a safety.
Perrion Winfrey, but he got called back.
Yeah,
no, that wasn't a penalty.
Didn't they get a safety? They blitzed a safety a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe against
That was
the Bucks.
Carolina, Jay. That was
No, it was
week
the
one.
Bucks.
Oh, I remember that, Blades.
Carolina.
This is a random question. What year is Myles Garrett in his contract?
Oh, they just signed through an extension.
he's an
Hey,
extension.
I don't like when you say that. What you alluding to?
Oh,
You say that to say what?
If I was his agent and I seen those stats, I would go renegotiate fast.
Or just ask to be traded.
Yeah, get me up out of here, dog. This is ridiculous.
No, you could demand top dollar. You can say, man, look at the production from the other guys. You need me. So just give me a few.
Wait, Maurice, I got a question for you. Of those 12 sacks, one came on Jamar Chase. That counts as a sack.
Sure did.
Do you actually count that as a sack in negotiations, or do you think the Browns?
Yeah,
That's a tackle for that counted as a sack.
That was a blown play, and
Why?
Chase just took a knee, basically.
Because he was going to throw the ball.
But here's the problem with that. He didn't throw the ball and couldn't throw the ball because he saw that 3 of his linemen were 10 yards downfield.
Hey, he went back to the Statue of Liberty.
I'm surprised that's a sack.
I am too.
Because now you're asking the official scorer to make a judgment as to whether or not a player was going to throw the football. How many times did we see Jarvis Landry run to the right, and you knew he was going to throw because he was patting it with his left hand, but there was nobody open, so he took the sack, and I didn't know that counted as a sack.
By the way, shockingly, the Browns actually have 15 sacks by players, not including Myles Garrett, which I didn't even think was that many.
Because they probably got a lot with 1 or a half.
Halves.
Yeah, right.
That's disgusting.
Will Myles Garrett end up with more sacks than the rest of the roster combined? It's 12 for him, 15 for the rest of the team right now.
Probably.
Man, that is.
If they keep running wide receiver sweeps that count as sacks, yes.
Will he finish with more sacks than Russell Wilson has touchdown passes?
Have you guys been following the Twitter?
The bathroom?
The Russell
hilarious.
Wilson versus touchdown
tour.
passes
Three
versus
this week, though.
bathrooms?
It's close now.
It's
It is
12 to
close.
11, I think.
Yeah, it is.
All right, question
He
number
has
4.
12 bathrooms in his house and 11 touchdown passes for the season, but he might not play again.
He might
this
not
year.
play the rest of the season.
So
It might end
the
like that.
bathrooms might have the win.
That's amazing.
That'll be
I'm
so
really
All right,
good.
question number 4.
bathrooms.
Maurice, we're going back to your wheelhouse here in terms of running the ball. Will Deshaun Watson outrush whoever plays quarterback for the Ravens? It won't be Lamar. It could be Anthony Tony. It could be Anthony Antonelli for all we know, or Lamar Huntley. Or,
We know
Tyler
it's not
Huntley.
him.
Yeah, of course, I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid, but then also all of this stuff helps him to get back into the game, running the ball, passing the ball. This is kind of like his preseason in a way, so I'm going to say yes.
The rest of the panel, let's see their answers. G. Bush, you're the lone one on the no side.
Nah, bro. Here the progression is. See, last week was get yourself back into
Tony Robbins out rushing Deshaun Watson.
Of course.
Wow.
Deshaun Watson, I don't need Deshaun Watson out. He run a read option. I need him throwing the ball down the field. Like, he may scramble a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
That's the progression. Like, I don't want people to make it seem like he's some scat quarterback. That's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to go up top on people. So I need 4 receivers, and then if he does scramble, I need you to keep your eyes downfield. I want bombs.
Yeah, but if Tony Bennett plays, he's not running.
He's not.
Hey, before anyone says, hey, in the YouTube
He's
chat,
still alive.
we need answers from the YouTube chat. Whatever the best name that we call Anthony Brown the rest of the show and tomorrow, we'll give you some sort of prize. We'll think of something. But the best name, we'll vote on it.
What's his number? I don't even know what his uniform number is.
Let's pull up the game stats from Tony Brown. Hold on, give us one
Please
sec.
Tony White?
Please be number 12.
81. It's 81.
What?
No. In our graphic system,
I think
he's
it's
number
12.
81.
Yeah.
He wears number 12.
Okay, he's TB12 then. He's Tony Brown 12.
Wow,
He's
that's
TB12.
Amazing.
That's crazy.
Honestly, we have to, whatever you guys
Anthony,
think is the
He
best
looks like
iteration.
Cardell. I don't care what any of you guys say. He does look like
But
Cardell.
he's too short to be
Anthony
Cardell.
Chubb?
No, he's big. He's
No,
6'5".
he's not. He's a big dude.
Big dude.
Doesn't he look like Cardell?
He kind of reminds me of Darkwing Duck.
Dude, he's got a little chicken
Wait,
wing gut.
Of who?
Darkwing Duck.
I don't know who that is.
Who's
Hey,
Darkwing
don't be
Duck?
banging on chicken wing guts.
They don't know who y'all don't know who Darkwing Duck is?
No
What
idea.
the hell's I like duck wings, but
Oh my gosh. Look, these guys. Maurice, do you know who Darkwing Duck is?
I don't.
Maurice went dark, so don't ask Maurice right now. Maurice just
Who's
went dark on
Darkwing
us.
Duck?
Hey man, hey, chat. Would somebody put something on Twitter of Darkwing Duck? These people act like they don't know. I forgot y'all kind of old. Y'all kind of old.
I
that
do
like
not
the
know
shark
Darkwing
Cartoon?
Duck.
The cartoon?
Yeah.
I remember Darkwing Duck.
Oh, I
what
don't.
the hell?
I don't remember Darkwing Duck.
Maurice, we got him back. Maurice, do you know who Darkwing Duck? Is that a investigative duck? Is this Sherlock Holmes meets Daffy Duck or Donald Duck? What? Hold on,
I don't
Earl,
know
can you
that
put your
one.
phone on the screen? Do you care? Have y'all ever seen this?
That's Darkwing Duck, bro. What you mean?
Yeah, I remember Darkwing.
That's a terrible picture. Hey, let's see if the iPad works this time. Hold, give me a sec.
I have not
Maurice,
seen
you can't hear
Darkwing
us
Duck.
again?
Sorry. I've never heard of it, bro.
What?
Never.
Is it a Disney thing?
Yes.
Because it looked like a Disney
Oh
drawing.
yeah.
It's like
Wow.
Yeah, that's a.
he had like a mask
He
or
had
something.
You know,
or-
he was like
Private Eye?
Yeah, but he didn't have no powers or nothing. It was weird. He used to get dog walked by criminals. like man, Darkwing Duck out here getting destroyed. He had like a plunger gun.
So he did not have the tools.
No, he did not have. He was good at creeping up on you. He would say like a thief in the night.
By the way, guys, I got to read you this tweet I just saw.
Okay.
This is embarrassing for the Browns.
Wait, Bull, hold on. I got the iPad to work.
Okay.
Take the iPad phone real
Darkwing
quick.
Duck.
Darkwing
Exciting.
Duck. It just the iPad is
Any
not
of y'all
working.
seen this? Darkwing Duck?
Are
You know,
you
yeah,
serious?
okay, I have, yeah.
Yeah, look.
I wouldn't have been able to pick out his name or even associate it with that character, but I have seen that character.
yeah.
Man, he got the Ravens colors on.
Yeah.
He moving around. He got
Guy-
Anthony Brown is TB12.
You guys got to
I'm sorry.
hear this tweet. All right.
Let's hear the tweet.
I saw this from Scott Petrak, who covers the Browns. Browns passing game DB coach Jeff Howard acknowledges it was a tough adjustment versus the Bengals when T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd left early. Weren't sure if they would come back, had planned all week to face all three, not just Jamar Chase.
Listen, see, this is
I don't
why
like
They
that.
lost their second and third best players.
This
And that
is
was-
You look
why.
at that as a disadvantage?
And I just
embarrassing.
I just had some growth and maturity in the first half hour of the show. The knee-jerk reach, God himself,
That's
G.
embarrassing.
Bush, did not reach on this. Sorry, Mom, I'm not calling myself a god. It's just a skit. The reach guy. I reach on everything, and I need a jerk on everything. And I showed some growth and maturity by saying Kevin Stefanski was put behind the 8 ball, kind of, sort of, and was going to allow everything to move to next year for year 4. And then I hear crap like that.
That's embarrassing. I don't like that.
I need more context around because I'm trying to think back in the I'm trying to think back in the press box of when it was announced. Like T. Higgins was out there for one play.
One play.
So we knew
Tyler
right
Boyd
away.
2 plays.
And they said
No, I think he's saying in-game adjustment because all week they had prepared for them to play. But how does that become more difficult?
Right?
You're having lesser players on the field, and you weren't ready for that?
I've never heard that.
I
You
haven't
went
either.
From T.
That's
Higgins
like if they lose, the Browns saying, we were really surprised that we got TB12.
So
we
let's,
weren't ready for Tony Brown.
they've done this. This is not the first time they let Henny scramble for 12, 13, 14 yards back up. They let the backups for the Ravens scramble. The Falcons. They let somebody with practice team players run 12, 13 plays in a row.
They're the only team that's rooting against stars getting injured during the game.
I think I'm trying to think back
That's
to
so
the,
mean, Jay.
I'm trying to think back to
on,
the
though,
press
that's
box.
ridiculous.
I'm trying to think back to the press box announcements of when these guys were ruled out.
Well,
and
T.
I feel like it was
Higgins played a snap, Jay, and he actually snuck in.
Right.
The
He wasn't
coaches didn't
supposed to
even.
be in the
He
game.
just got on
Right.
the field. Boyd was ruled questionable, at least on the broadcast. I'm not sure from your
But, Jason,
perspective,
who
but he was
cares?
ruled out in the second
No,
quarter.
I'm saying but they should have known.
That's a fireable offense.
They
just
should
on
have
the
known.
face.
Well, I think he's saying in their preps all week they prepared for
Right,
Higgins
yeah.
and Boyd, and then it was some sort of disadvantage that their two
that's
stars couldn't
mind-blowing.
play.
That
The
lesser
team-
receivers.
The team that got the injuries adjusted. The team.
Now, let me.
That's just weird.
I can't believe I'm going to even offer this as a possible defense.
Yes.
As you're scheming defensively for a team with 3 really good pass catchers, you wouldn't over-rotate guys to chase.
Sure.
But that's an adjustment that you can make
that
on the
shouldn't
fly
be that
in the
complicated,
game.
right?
Right.
Just like that.
this.
Right.
Why should that be
I
complicated
don't.
to change?
But that's a bad look.
But again, they should have known right away these guys were out. Like when Higgins was out for one play in the first couple possessions, it's pretty obvious at that point he's not coming back.
right.
Like
I just don't understand
Especially because he had been questionable all week
Right.
with that hamstring.
I've never seen anything like that. I've
That
never.
is that's
that.
embarrassing.
Oh,
I wish
Lord.
their second and third receivers hadn't gotten hurt. We were ready for those guys.
I mean,
We were ready.
that's
What it
You sound like a
reads
fool
like.
when
So
you
you
say
telling me
something like
McNuggets could have went out there and got busy?
Yeah.
I mean,
weren't
they didn't
prepared-
game
they
plan
weren't
for
prepared
McNuggets.
for
So,
McNuggets.
yes.
We've never seen him play before.
No, who's this McNuggets guy?
I mean, the 2 guys the Bengals were playing are barely NFL players.
They're practice
I mean,
players.
There's Thor Ragnork, as G. Bush put
Thor
it.
Trent Taylor's a special teams guy, and Trenton Irwin is like a guy who goes from team to team as the 5th and 6th receiver.
And they didn't have a tight end.
And their tight end was out.
That's a fireable offense.
We got 2 more fence questions. Maurice had to run. Good news, he's in studio next Thursday.
awesome.
Nice.
So we're going to have Maurice in studio. We'll run through these last 2 before we bring Aditi on.
Bring Aditi in for it.
She's
if
not here yet.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do these to
We
fill
should
the
do
5
fence
minutes before
questions
she
with
gets
her.
By the way, Aditi not doing a game this week.
Oh.
You're not doing a game.
Nope.
Okay.
All right,
That's
question
a miss
number
by
5.
CBS. I would have her
Big time.
in on the Ravens-Browns.
Will the Browns score more than 2 touchdowns on Sunday, something they haven't done since Deshaun Watson's been back? You guys answered. We appreciate the answers. Let's see it, Steve. G and Bull, yes. Tyvis, Jason, J, not buying it.
Tell me how they're going to score 3 touchdowns against this defense.
Man, they better. Listen, that's
Well, I know
on-
they better. I
that,
want
that's
them
on
to.
Lamar. Hey, at this point, that's Deshaun Watson, bro. I need
He's got 1 in 8 quarters.
he better
against a really bad defense.
I'm looking at progression.
Well, the Bengals don't have a really
No,
bad
but
defense. The
4 of those
Texans-
were against a horrible team.
Hey, I need progression. Week 1, terrible. Week 2, Week 3, we got to at least score 2 touchdowns because I'm.
No, it's going to have to be 3.
I'm grading him on the Jacoby Brissett curve.
Okay.
And the Jacoby Brissett curve was that exact way.
Bull?
He was terrible, good.
Yeah. I don't think I think the Ravens are fraud. Okay?
Wow.
I don't think they're that good a team. Their defense has played well for the last bunch of weeks. Let me give you the schedule of who they've played the last bunch of weeks. Tampa Bay, terrible defense. Offense. New Orleans, terrible offense. Carolina, terrible offense. Jacksonville, okay offense. Denver, terrible offense. Pittsburgh, terrible offense.
Okay.
They have played the worst offensive teams in the league for the past 6 weeks. That's why their defense, which struggled early in the season, has been much better. Now they got what's his name from the Bears, and he's helped. What's
Linebacker.
the guy? Yeah, I can't think of his name. He's
Roquan
played-
Smith.
We're going to get to play.
But
or have
one
played all
guy,
those
one
teams, too.
linebacker doesn't make them from crap early in the season to great.
No, you know what? I disagree. I'm not going to say crap early. I don't
Yeah.
think they were crap. I think they were coming together. But I disagree. I think he has transformed that defense completely.
Well, I think we'll find out now.
made a
Now,
massive
in
difference.
fairness, the Browns' offense hasn't been any good either.
No.
So maybe, with Deshaun Watson, I should say, because they were playing pretty well with Jacoby Brissett. But I think the Ravens' defense is fine, but I don't think it's special at all. And I think Deshaun Watson, who progressed big time from week 1 to week 2, has a lot more room to progress. And I think it comes together, and I think he has a big game this week.
3 touchdowns.
I got him
thrilled with 3 touchdowns.
I got Watson with 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown.
So he's going to score 3 by himself.
I have a tweet I
24-10
have to
Browns.
read.
Now you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
He is.
It's one game. I still, it's
He's
a
got
lot.
them 3-1 down the stretch.
3-1
Did I ask
You don't
you
think
that
they can
yet?
go 3-1?
I'm 2-2, and that's optimistic. I'm fearful 1-3.
I have to think about it. This is a big game. This is a big swing
This is
game.
huge.
The whole thing could unravel.
is-
Yeah, but I told you.
This is a ball of yarn. If this is an L, guys,
This is the
tent
biggest-
post is on
Agreed.
the floor.
This is
But
the
if they win
biggest
this
game.
game, I think they'll win 2 of their last 3, and that's why I'm going with
Okay.
3-1.
Well, this is a pivotal game. This is the game.
This is a pivotal game. This tweet is pivotal to the next question.
Good.
Mary Kay Cabot just retweeted this from Jonas Schaefer, who's a Baltimore Sun beat reporter for the Bengals. He
the
says
Ravens.
quarterback Tyler Huntley was at today's walkthrough. He's on track to play Saturday versus
Oh,
Cleveland.
wow.
So it
So no
appears
Tony
from this
Danza.
tweet from Mary Kay retweeted it. So I'm trusting Mary Kay would not retweet
No,
a
it's-
jabroni. And this guy is a legit verified 15,000 followers beat reporter for the Baltimore Sun.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson missed a 6th straight practice. I don't expect him to be activated. So that leads us to our last question. It's only happened once this season, and it happened against the Texans, who have the worst quarterback play in the NFL. Will the Browns force multiple turnovers versus the Ravens? Is it unanimous? Our first unanimous answer, Steve? It is. No faith.
None of us are drinking that Kool-Aid.
No.
Well, we can off the top of our head remember all of the turnovers
All
for
of
the
them.
entire season.
I think
that's horrible.
I just think even with Huntley, they're going to run 2/3 of the time.
Hey, listen. Well,
and you're much less
He's
likely
had
to fall.
success. He's been there a while. He
Nah.
knows the system.
No,
this
like
game
Huntley.
just really turned on his face. I would actually even be willing to say if you pick the Ravens to win this game, I wouldn't say you crazy. Huntley can throw the ball. He moves around. He can run.
I thought he looked pretty good last year. I know they didn't
He's
win.
won a lot of games for them when Lamar's been hurt.
Oh, he didn't win games.
Yeah, not this year. In past years.
Yeah, past years he done won some games. Yeah, this
You guys
bad.
are high on. I'm going to go look up his record, even
Go
though
right
his
ahead.
quarterback record doesn't
Yeah,
I
matter.
remember
He lost
watching
a lot
him
of
win
close
games.
games
He was
last
playing
year.
well,
I
but
remember
they would
him
end up
playing well.
losing those
I
games.
remember him
playing
winning
well.
games that I thought they were going to lose.
Hey, listen. These dudes.
Tyler Huntley's career record's 2-5, by the way.
Well, he won
Now-
2 games that I was watching. I thought they'd lose.
Well, and if you look
There
at
were
the
a lot
5
of games
losses
last year he played pretty well, but
and
they
lost very close games
Yes.
last year, if I'm not mistaken.
This is a bad look. For
He's
the
certainly
Browns.
an upgrade
Jason,
from
I thought he won way more
Uncle
games. too.
Tony
In my
Brown,
head,
but
in my head, he's 4. In my unofficial Mike Lucas remembers, he's 4-3 in his career. So Jason, I'm with you. You can use that stat.
Thank you.
I think he's better than TB12 light.
Yeah, he
know
is.
that.
Wait, that's TB12 heavy for the
Yeah,
record.
yeah. And
TB12
by
heavy.
the way, we acting like this ain't the Browns' defense. Why we need to throw out all the past stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, he was terrible last. No, you're going against the one of the worst defenses that I've ever seen.
Tony
in Cleveland.
Bennett might be playing linebacker for the Browns.
Ever.
That's how bad things are. right
Browns
now.
defense hasn't been as bad the last 3 weeks. Now, in fairness, they've only played one good offense in the last 3 weeks, but
This the Browns' defense, the worst defense that I've seen while I've been here.
not the last. But it's been better the last 3 weeks, no, than it was early in the season.
It's placebo. They can get whatever they want. It's all depends on how much they want to embarrass you.
Aditi, do you think the Browns defense has improved a little bit the last few weeks?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I do think that it has actually gotten better the
these
last
guys are
few
lost
weeks.
over here.
No, I think
I
it has
mean,
too. They were so
sure.
bad at one point this season. There's nowhere to go but up.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying
Well-
it's improved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know what? I had Ike Taylor on my radio show here in Pittsburgh yesterday, and Ike Taylor, as you remember, played for the Steelers for a long time. He won multiple rings. He was on multiple #1 defenses, and he said the key to that defense, or all of those defenses, was 6 o'clock. And I've never heard it explained this way, but it was essentially, think of a clock where you want the 12 and the 6, and you're going straight down the middle. And he was thinking about those defenses, and the defensive tackles were impenetrable. The middle linebackers were you're so able to rely on them. And then you think about the back end, the safeties. So let's take that to the Browns right now. Defensive tackle has been the biggest question mark since training camp. That's where you were young and you were hoping that someone would overachieve.
Yeah, the Browns clock goes from 11 to 1. There is no 12 on the clock.
0.
No, but that's
exactly.
That's,
and then you
that's
go
a
to
great
middle
point.
linebacker. Look at what's happened at inside linebacker, right? And losing Anthony Walker was huge. Then you go down to, again, the middle. I mean, it's sort of like if the guts of your defense is hurt or not available even before the season starts, not there, then that's pretty tough. And then, of course, in and out of the secondary, health issues. I think that the group is healthier or has gotten healthier. And I guess things have been simplified. We spent so much of camp talking about how they can go to another level because there were so many people that were back. There was so much comfort and familiarity. And then you hear Joe Woods, defensive coordinator Joe Woods, saying, well, no, now we've got to just simplify things and dial it back and try to do less and do whatever it is that we're doing better. I mean, I don't know. You were talking about the Ravens before you came to me, and I was just really quickly checking because those last 6 games, they finished 0-6, and I can't remember if I was at 4 of those games or I just lost it. But I was at the Steelers game when they lost by 3. I was at the Rams game when they lost by 1 and dominated the whole game until the very end. I was at the Cincinnati game, which was the only blowout, and that was when John Johnson started basically. I don't even know if he'd had 10 days with the team. He had a week with the team. The week before that, they lost by 1 point. The week before that, they lost by 2. And the week before that, they lost by 1. And those were all Tyler Huntley games. So even though Tyler Huntley wasn't necessarily generating the wins that Mikey remembers, he was keeping the Ravens in those games. Yes. And almost every single one of those games came down to the last 2 minutes, to closing, to finishing, which we all know is sort of the toughest thing to do in the National Football League. You think about the way the Ravens can run the ball and the way the Ravens did run the ball or have run the ball on the Browns, that's a bit worrisome. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here and saying, oh, well, it's not Lamar Jackson, ho-hum.
Well, not ho-hum, but, I mean, Lamar Jackson is a lot better than Tyler Huntley, so you have a better chance to win.
Sure, of course, but I also think that a situation like this, how many teams have you seen when they're facing an undefeated opponent, when they're facing a division leader, they bring their A game, and when they're facing a backup, all of a sudden they look a little bit wishy-washy. So if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm in that room and saying, I don't care if it's Anthony Brown, I don't care if it's Tyler Huntley, I don't care if it's Lamar Jackson. This is it. Like, bring the best game that you have. And I also think that the offense has something. Deshaun Watson is still trying to get fully, completely acclimated. There are still things to play for here.
Aditi, let me ask you this question. Bull, can you assist me on this?
Please.
What does this really mean? He had a.
You want me to read that quote, that comment?
I'm trying to figure out what this quote means. We're baffled. Maybe
so
you
listen
can
to this,
shed some light on this.
So this was a tweet from Scott Petrak, who he covers the Browns.
Of course.
He said they were talking with passing game coordinator, DB coach Jeff Howard. He says Jeff Howard acknowledged it was a tough adjustment versus the Bengals when T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd left early. Weren't sure if they would come back, had planned to face all 3 wide receivers, not just Chase. So in other words, it seems like he's saying things got harder, that the Bengals' second and third best receivers got hurt for just guys, which to us makes no sense and sounds like a pretty embarrassing statement. Are we reading it wrong?
So the first part, the acknowledge it was tough adjustment, might be Scott being nice, saying clearly it was a tough adjustment, and Jeff Howard acknowledged it, meaning like they didn't do a good job. It was an ugly, it was rough, it was tough. Perhaps he's saying it that way. But the second part, I don't get at all. I mean, if you suddenly are only facing Chase and not Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, you should be doing jumping jacks on the side.
Exactly.
That's what we thought.
Like, I mean, I don't get that one. I'm sorry. That's probably a better question for Scott, who was there and I wasn't.
Yeah, because there might be some of that lost in translation.
By the way, guys, can I just go backwards? On Tuesday, when you were asking me about Jim Donovan, and I was saying what Jim Donovan was saying about the team, and I said, initially, well, I'm not really sure. But then I said, look, he's there every day. We have to give him more respect for that insight right there than you can in asking me. I mean, he knows way more than I do. And so trust him in saying that. There were quite a few people that were like, why are you just being a contrarian? And I was like, well, I'm thinking aloud as I'm talking.
Don't listen to those people. They're freaking idiots.
Tune that out.
I don't want to parse Scott's words. We should ask Scott what
exactly
happened.
I think that's a fair point. Some of that, and I didn't think of that, but Aditi, you're right. Sometimes when a reporter asks a question and the subject agrees with it, I've seen reporter then try to put that as the initial thought in the the subject's mind. We don't know that that's the case. He might have, like you said, been agreeing and I don't know that this is the case. Scott's very good at his job.
Yeah, it's not in quotes.
I have seen that happen many times where a reporter offers up a premise and the subject, trying to be nice and agreeable, might say, yeah, and then all of a sudden that thought becomes his original thought. So we do have to be careful on that.
And it may not even be to be nice. It could be just the truth. Like, acknowledges that was some ugly play. Acknowledges that there were way too many. There was a lot of gap in security. Acknowledges, it could be anything like that. This is what's so hard about Twitter, right? Like, it's very hard to know what the entire context, what the entire conversation was, where it all went. So I'd rather just. I don't know. Disappointing all around. Let's just acknowledge that.
The other thing that's possible, Aditi, is when you're game planning for a team that has 3 very good receivers and you're allocating your resources as to what you're going to do to stop them, I can see how perhaps it would be a bit of an adjustment on the fly to now say we're not going to equally distribute those resources to stop 3 people. We need to roll help over to the 1, but still, that should be something that these teams can do on the snap of fingers.
Come on, Jay, again, like, this is the National Football League. This happens constantly. Players go out all the time. Being able to adjust on the fly is where the magic is.
That's exactly right.
You have to be able to respond. You have to be, and in some ways, the best defenses tell you that they're dictating the play. We don't care what happens.
Right.
We want to force you into playing the way we want you to play.
Yeah,
so,
we don't have that kind of defense.
Yeah, I think
it's a bad look. It's a bad look.
It's hard to disagree with that.
I got the quote. So Scott Petrak tweeted again. And this time he put in quotes exactly what he said.
Okay.
This is what, again, Jeff Howard, the passing game coordinator, DB coach. Quote, we were planning for all 3 of them, and then after one series, 2 of them tap out, and the game changes. So it stresses your adaptability, and you really got to feel the game out. We could probably be more aware of when they are in a situation like that.
That's even worse.
Yeah, that's not making it any better.
That doubles down on bad.
My God.
I hate to laugh.
That's even worse.
I hate to laugh. They have no shot. They have no shot.
Oh, my God.
That's like word salad. What are you exactly saying there? But it's
very tough to defend that.
I don't know. I think that this is such a difficult, it must be hard. Coaches' expertise is or are to coach, to teach, to educate their players. They're not necessarily the best public speakers. And yet it's like every week you have to stand up there and justify the job you're doing and justify the job that you're doing to a lot of lay people who maybe don't know all the intricacies, and justify the job you're doing to people who not only may not know everything or all the intricacies or have the same knowledge of your area of expertise, but also don't know everything that you're not at liberty to say. I mean, what if cornerback Z said, holy cow, Jamar Chase is so much tougher than I thought, I just can't do it? What if cornerback Y had massive stomach pains and just couldn't run? There could be anything going on. And I think that sometimes instead of just being straightforward, they give us this word salad. And to your point, it doesn't come out looking really good.
Aditi, Garrett threw a grenade into our group chat. Bless you.
Bless you.
I've been sneezing all day. I can't believe I haven't sneezed on the air yet. I'm trying to hold it in all morning. I'm fighting something too. Garrett threw something in our group chat the other day, and it set off a bomb of, is 3 years enough to evaluate a coach? So without any further context, I will just ask you that exact same question, not necessarily regarding Kevin, but 3 years in general, is that enough time to evaluate a head coach?
You can't answer that in a vacuum, and no, I don't think so, actually.
Bang! I knew I'd agree with you. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Here's the point I made. Ron Rivera, 3 years to evaluate, who's been doing it for 20 years, versus Kevin, first-time head coach doing it for 3 years. It's impossible to answer.
Agreed. It's also, what is the roster that's around you? What other stressors are there? Is there a stressor like the COVID year? Is there a stressor like the whole Deshaun Watson chase and then juggling quarterbacks and preparing offenses and making a midseason switch? There's stressors like injuries or unexpected things along those lines, so I think it's really hard in a vacuum to sit here and say that. I also think that, come on, Kevin Stefanski was just the coach of the year 2 years ago. What, did he just wake up yesterday and turn dumb?
Apparently
it's
so. If you ask
ridiculous.
half of Cleveland, yes. Half of Cleveland thinks he just woke up and lost all his brains.
It's so absurd. John Harbaugh was about to be run out of town. Super Bowl winning coach was about to be run out of town when Joe Flacco's back, gave out, he throws in Lamar Jackson. And when we say run out of town, he was like 4-7 or something. And I'll say this openly. If I were to play for any coach in the National Football League, it would be John Harbaugh. I just think he is so exceptional for so many reasons. And one of them is going back to last year when he only had Tyler Huntley and John Johnson, and his team that also had 20 major contributors on IR is in every single game and dropping them by 1 and 2 points. To fight and to still keep fighting is a statement on the coach. So anyway, he was almost thrown out of town. Lamar Jackson comes in, and all of a sudden he's coach of the year again. So things can flip, things can switch. Deshaun Watson very actively, look, let's just throw this out there. Deshaun Watson went to the money. The Browns were offering him guaranteed money, yes. But Deshaun Watson also loved Kevin Stefanski's offense. And I sat with him in a room when he talked about the time that the Browns brass flew down to Houston to meet with him, to talk to him. Once the grand jury had not returned an indictment, the Browns had decided they were indeed in on this Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. They'd come down to talk to him, get a personal sense of him. Everybody left the room, and it's Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson. And Kevin Stefanski has put together about a 30-minute tape of plays that Stefanski has run with Baker Mayfield, with Kirk Cousins, with Case Keenum, plays that Deshaun Watson has run, runs that Nick Chubb has run, and how they would change if Deshaun was the quarterback, what Deshaun could potentially do in a Kevin offense. And Deshaun told us that those 30 minutes right there were just everything to him. It was talking ball, as he said, which he can do forever. It was the light bulb going off in his head, this idea of what he can do in this offense, how he and Kevin could build together. And then the way that he was talking about what a great players coach Kevin is. He said Kevin has no ego. And this is something that Jacoby Brissett said also. If you don't like a play, it's out. Kevin is not wedded to anything that it has to be his way or the highway. Deshaun isn't talking about playing for a coach like that and then being okay if the coaches just canned. Let's not forget, Deshaun Watson refused to play for the Texans because the Texans didn't consult him on the hiring of a coach. You better believe that if Deshaun Watson has tied himself to a franchise, part of that decision is who the coach is. So if you put all of your eggs in the Deshaun Watson basket, you're not going to piss him off by getting rid of the coach that he wants to play for and getting rid of the offensive system that he wants to be in. And oh, by the way, there's no reason to get rid of the coach. Kevin Stefanski didn't wake up yesterday and suddenly lose everything in his head that made him coach of the year 2 years ago.
Aditi, the sun is shining.
What do you think is out there that's better? Who is out there
I
that's
agree
better
with everything
available?
you said, although it is fair to say he hasn't done a great job this year, I think.
Sure, they're 5-8. He would tell you that he hasn't done a great job. What 5-8 coach is going to tell you I've done a great job?
Aditi, the harps are playing, the sun is shining. You just gave a sermon in a minute and a half of what I've been screaming verbatim for 3 months. and nobody's listening to me. So thank you.
Oh, stop it. I've been saying it longer than you. What the hell are you
They
doing?
So wait, are you accusing me of plagiarizing?
No,
or are you
of course
comparing
not.
me?
No,
They're
no,
not
no,
gonna
no.
listen to
By
me.
the
No,
way,
I'm just saying.
We got beef. We got Aditi versus Jason.
No,
Ring
never.
the bell.
She'd kick my ass every time. No.
By the
no,
way,
no.
Aditi, last thing before we let you go, Trump just made a big announcement. Trump trading cards for $99. Will you buy them?
Oh my God.
What?
That was
Aditi,
his
you
big
don't have to answer
announcement.
that. Thank you, Aditi. We appreciate it.
McNuggets being the lawyer.
Aditi,
You don't have to answer
we'll
that.
see you next
Will
week.
you buy the Trump trading cards?
Bye-bye.
Please.
Hey, well, we have you guys. You can bet on this Sunday's game.
Jeez.
Not using
I'm excited about the
BetJack,
trading
but come
cards.
January 1st, you can bet on all your Browns, Cavs, Guardians, Ohio State, you name it, because BetJack is coming on January 1st. Hey, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show fans, looking for the ultimate sports betting, goes live January 1st. Just download the BetJack app today so you can have skin in every game, anytime, anywhere. BetJack, it's Ohio Sportsbook.
We have to schedule a show trip. Terrible, Jason.
Yeah.
We have to schedule a show trip where the whole group goes to Jack for either a football Sunday or college football, maybe the playoffs or whatever, and just hang out in their incredibly Las Vegas-like lounge.
You know what we should do?
Which is top shelf.
You know what we should do? That'll be maybe the last game when it's open. Maybe our first member meet and greet. Which, by the way,
that's a great idea.
Those are coming. We still got some logistical, legal stuff that has to be worked out on that. But if you are a member of UCSS, either a starter's tier for $199 or a coach's tier for $499,
Do
we'll
a meet
let
and
you
greet
know when that
at
is coming.
BetJack.
We'll ask BetJack. We'll work it out. Like I said, there's a lot of It's not as easy as just saying, hey, we're showing up, we're going.
Sure.
I wish it was. Unfortunately, it's not. But we do that overtime content every day. We're talking Guardians today with that overtime content. And if you give me 1 sec, I want to show you guys why it is worth being a member, because the community tab is where the chat continues after the show. And this was popping off today. I wish this stayed up here. It didn't stay up, so I got to type it back in. So give me 1 second here, guys,
All right.
as we set this up. But we asked everybody if 3 years was enough time to evaluate a head coach, and check out some of these answers here. Steve, I don't know if it's broadcasting now. We got 45 responses. I'll read a couple real quick. Todd Fensel says, normally I say yes, but with all the situations that happened over the last 3 years, I think Stefanski deserves at least one more year with the quarterback he wanted. The DC, on the other hand, well, we have seen enough. XXDev500 says, I think we need to give him a full year with Deshaun. Then we can evaluate, though I do believe these last few games will be very telling. And one more just for fun. I mean, look how many comments we got, guys. This is all from today's
This is
post.
very nice.
The conversation, including G. Bush, goes on way after.
G. Bush,
Can I
the
ask a
show
question? I'm not as tech savvy as you young whippersnappers. It kind of seems to me that this is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 extension of our show.
It stays on forever. You can comment whenever. We'll see when we get to them. But the conversation does not end when the show ends. So
Wow, that's kind of cool to know that, because I know a lot of people aren't watching us in real time. They're watching us. I hear from people all the time that watch us at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock when they get off work.
Yep.
And they watch the show. And if they want to weigh in, they feel like they want to become part of this community, this Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show community, they can dive into this area and they can be part of the chat.
By the way, when you reply to somebody, it gives you a notification that somebody replied to what you just said.
If you're subscribed,
if you just
either
comment.
way.
Either way, if you just comment, even if you're not subscribed or you're just a regular person who comes across.
How does it come through? Email or what?
What happens is once you put it down, it'll come as a notification that so-and-so replied to something you put in this thread. So in the notification bell in the right-hand corner, it'll have a 1 or 2, how many people refer to it.
Okay,
so
that's kind of cool.
Theoretically, you can have 45 people reply to you in that chat. And by the way, a little thing about the internet and how YouTube is, people just go right to the comments. Sometimes, like when I'm watching these like shows or podcasts or wherever it is, people go right to the comment section just to like check and see what the feel is before they even watch it.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's a weird phenomenon.
I don't know why, but I'm not into the comments.
Pat McAfee, his chats is crazy.
comments are a thing of beauty. Sometimes they get a little off the rails, and you got to sort the real ones from the trolls.
Yeah.
So just know it's not always the healthiest place, but ours is.
Yeah, that's probably why I stay away from it. It's like Twitter. It's my God.
It's
Hey,
even
not
worse.
everyone's-
What is wrong
not
with these
everyone's
people?
Probably even worse.
But we have Anthony and Earl and myself from time to time. We'll monitor, make sure no
Good.
one's
Good.
saying
Well, I'm
anything they
glad
shouldn't be
someone's paying
saying,
attention
so.
to it. Let's talk Cavs.
What happened to top 5? We're not doing top 5?
No, I think we ran out of time.
We got to
for that.
get Cavs. We got
Yeah.
a bunch of internet comments we got to read, both.
We got to do Cavs. The Cavs last
top
night,
5 subjects.
after that egg they dropped in San Antonio, I was watching closely because I wanted to see progression. I wanted to see a team that plays up to their talent. And I knew this Mavs team, they're not world beaters, but I think they're a good team. And on the road, the way the Cavs had played, I was very nervous about this. I thought this could easily be an L, but they won 105-90. And really, with a few brief stretches, this was never even in doubt.
Yeah.
They jumped up big. They had a 17-0 run at one point, and they won handily. Donovan Mitchell played like the 5-star guy that we think he is. I threw out there that it was, with the Celtics wins, in the category for most impressive performances of the season. Does anybody think that's nonsense, or can they slightly agree with that?
I would still put Boston ahead of them just because that's a team you're going to face in the future.
Right.
Theoretically, Dallas you really don't have to worry about. But, yeah, I mean, what I liked about last night was the fact that Donovan took control early. I mean, when I turned the game on, it was 18-2. I think it was 18-2. And I thought, wow, okay. And Dallas made a run because that's what you do in the NBA.
Sure.
And it was close again, and then the Cavs pulled away again. It was a 20-point lead like that.
Yeah.
And just the way Donovan controlled the game, I think he had 27 in the first half. He set the tone early, and they really kind of coasted to a win. It was a much-needed win. Spurs loss was a bad loss. That's a bad team. I don't care if you're on the road. You can't lose that game in that building to that team. So to bounce back the way they did was impressive.
Dallas may be a 500 team, but they're like the Cavs. They've been great at home and terrible on the road.
Right.
They were 11-4 at home coming into that game last night, and the Cavs obviously had played lousy on the road. So I thought it was an excellent win. And how about the game Lamar Stevens had?
Yeah.
You know what? That
Usually,
was
even
number
when he
2 on
starts,
my
he doesn't
list.
put up any stats, but
He
he
was
had a
great.
double-double.
His plus-minus was 22.
Yeah.
Highest on the team.
It was unbelievable last
He had
night.
18 and 11 or something.
That's the problem with the Cavs. You don't never know what you're getting from Lamar Stevens, and you never know what you're getting from what's the name?
Okoro.
No, not
LeVert.
LeVert.
You just don't know. Like if
He
they
could
don't
have
get,
35. He could have 3.
The difference is you're paying Karis LeVert about $18 million.
Yeah.
And you're paying Lamar Stevens minimum wage
Right,
by NBA
right.
standards. So it's okay to
Yeah.
get that out of Lamar Stevens. Like,
if you can get it from him, the Cavs I think are a different team.
Did they stumble onto something, though, with Stevens? I mean, I don't know how repeatable last night was.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ills that we've talked about, like things that they need, he stepped up and provided last night.
Yeah, I mean, I like him in that role and in the starting lineup. We've talked about it before because you don't need a whole lot out of that 3 spot, you know. And I think they've done a really nice job over the course of this rebuild, which obviously they're not in a rebuild anymore, of finding guys like Dean Wade and Lamar Stevens and these guys who were really nobodies and were looked over, and they were able to identify them, pick them up, and develop them. And that's something that wasn't always the case with this organization for a number of years. You know, that's the point I made a few years ago, is who are they really developing and turning into great players? And in the NBA today, you know, you don't need to have picks in the top 5 in order to develop a team, which is really what it used to be. Like, you needed top 5, top 10 talent. And teams like, teams like Miami, Toronto won a championship with nobody drafted in the top 10. Milwaukee, you know, with Giannis, obviously that's lightning in a bottle at 13, but even the pieces around him, you can build teams now through development and through different ways. It doesn't always have to be high lottery picks. Obviously, the Cavs had Evan Mobley at number 3, but Jared Allen they got in trade. Garland was a high pick at 5, but there's just other ways to supplement the top talent, and I think they've done a nice job of identifying
I would second that.
Do we know why your boy Jetty Osman didn't play last night?
I don't know. No,
They only really played 8 guys last night.
Yeah, small rotation.
Yeah.
Everything worked. They only got, I think, 13 bench points.
Sometimes
That's it.
Yeah, all from I think Kevin Love had 2.
Sometimes if
Love
guys
did
are
have 2.
rolling and catching a rhythm, you just don't want
Yeah.
to disrupt that rhythm. And so a guy like Jetty, I don't know. I don't know if he was fighting something, if he was hurt. I
Yeah,
really
just
don't
said
know.
coach's decision. So.
That to me means that the other guys caught a rhythm, and so they just went with him.
What I found is, which is I don't know, interesting, is the Cavs play well against the names. You look who they beat this year. They beat the Sixers handily.
Yeah.
You beat the
Celtics.
Mavericks. You beat the Celtics twice.
Lakers.
You beat the Lakers. The teams with the names, they seem to play.
They
But
did L the Warriors.
Yeah, they did take an L to the Warriors, but you lose to Sacramento
And the
twice.
Bucks.
They lost to the Bucks. Well, Milwaukee is, I think, the cream of the crop. But I think this team has to be in the top. They have to have home court. I believe they have to have home court in the first round.
I thought the defensive effort last night was exceptional. And
Yeah.
I noticed Bickerstaff after the game made reference to that. He said, everything we do starts with defense.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that was super encouraging to me. Defense is a switch. Defense is an effort. It's a decision. Are we going to go all out tonight and expend a lot of energy to play defense? And it seems that when this team has decided to do that, the 2 Celtics games, I thought they did that for the last Bucks loss, the Friday night after Thanksgiving when they gave up that 25-2 run. It started so well for them. They had like a 17-point lead, and they were playing defense. I think that's good because Bickerstaff even made this comment, which I loved. What we do well travels, and that's defense.
Yeah.
And it does. It's a mindset. It's a decision. And I thought last night, particularly because they had looked so poor against San Antonio, they made the decision to win this game. We're going to have to go out there and play playoff caliber defense, and they did it, which is nice. I think they can find that gear when they need it.
But to G's point, I agree that I think they need home court just because they're a young team. And young teams tend to, in a playoff environment, a playoff atmosphere, they tend to buckle a little bit on the road.
And because they've been so bad on the road.
Yeah. And again, I think that goes back to just being a young team, and they're not really battle tested. They're not road tested. So that could determine how far they go.
And they got 2. They showed me they got 2 guys where, you know how you be watching NBA basketball, and you got a couple dudes that's bucket getters, and they're going to get buckets regardless. You can play it in the playground. You can play it in your backyard or in Golden State. Mitchell and Garland will score to a certain extent. But to win, you need that third dude, a fourth dude, to come along and say, oh, well, I could get that too, on the road. And it's not that they don't have it. It's just the fact that they're young and they're trying to find it.
Is Allen or Mobley more that guy to you?
I had a executive with another team tell me Jared Allen's their most important player. Period.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've heard other people intimate that his trajectory will be the Cavs' trajectory.
Because they sort of unravel defensively when he's not out there.
Right,
He's the pillar to what they do defensively. Doesn't necessarily mean he's their best player. Donovan Mitchell's their best player.
Sure.
The guy I was talking to said Jared Allen is their most important player.
I get that,
It was
too.
interesting.
I understand.
He doesn't make he doesn't make mistakes. Like if you watch Jared Allen, you very rarely see him take a bad shot or not finish around the rim or be out of position defensively. It's just like you can count on him to get that 14 and 12 and play great defense.
If there was PFF grades for basketball players, Jared Allen would rate so high.
Yeah.
Because he, like you said, he doesn't make mistakes. He's always in the right spot.
What is it that you said,
helps.
Mike, at the beginning of that? I couldn't hear
If
the
there were PFF
If there was
grades.
PFF grades
grades,
for basketball players,
It's
he would
interesting.
rate so highly because he doesn't take bad shots. He
Yeah.
only takes shots that are within the offense. When the ball comes to him, he doesn't need the ball. He sets screens. Like in 2K, you might be able to guess this. The teammate grade for him would be out the window with all the picks he sets and rebounds
Like
he
the
does.
big fundamental.
And he has the anchor badge.
And he does all the little things, right?
Yeah.
The defense, the rebounding, the hustle plays. He brings the energy to the team.
That's why I
don't think
can
there's any doubt
totally
about it.
co-sign that
Yeah.
remark that he's not their best player. I agree that, but he may be the player that ultimately determines what they become.
You know how Jared Allen, you know how like we talked about, obviously he's a better basketball player than Jacoby Brissett is a football player, but like we talked about Jacoby Brissett knowing who he is.
Yeah.
And that's why he succeeded with the Browns because
try to do more than that.
Right. And Jared Allen knows who he is. He seems very comfortable in his skin and the type of player that he is.
Yeah, this isn't a perfect comparison. In fact, it just fell into my head, so I may be wrong. You could probably talk me out of it. I almost liken him to Draymond Green with the Warriors. Not that he's the outspoken, fiery guy, but
He's not a D-bag like him.
but I mean, Golden State has Steph and Clay, but Draymond has really, a lot of times, been the backbone of that team.
Yep.
And I sort of look at this, I think, again, I just thought of this, kind of tend to look at this the same way, where you have Donovan and Darius, but yet Jared Allen is kind of the backbone of that team.
Role, not game. I think, yes, plays that similar role.
Yeah. I'm not saying their games are similar.
Game,
because they're
no.
not.
But, yeah, I think you're right. That pivotal third guy that can hold it all together, and if he's not doing what they need him to do, it can all fall apart.
Yeah.
Once again, I look at Donovan Mitchell, man. Bro, I didn't know you. I didn't know. I was disrespecting your game, bro. I knew you was good, but I didn't know he was that good, bro. Like, he came out in this game, and he was just basically like, "Oh, Luka, we know you get 33 a game, but who cares about that? You losing
What did he
today."
finish with, like 20?
He just
22 maybe, Luka.
and the way I saw him playing defense on Luka.
That's what impressed me.
And I'm like, he's giving up 5 inches, and he's just digging down.
Luka was in a bad mood last night.
Yeah, he was.
There was 3 or 4 times where I saw him just be absolutely disgusted with his teammates. I don't know what was going on.
He looked like he had to he gave them that business in the locker room.
The worst part about Luka last night, I had his over point total at 30.5.
He scored 30.
He scored 30. That
Oh,
took
he
him
did
out
have
6
that many.
minutes left.
9 of 23.
Yeah, because he did a lot of work late
but
because
he
there
didn't
for a
shoot
while.
well. He was 9 of 23 from the
It hurt.
field.
Yeah.
When you miss by 1 point,
Yeah, that does
and they take him
sting.
out with 6 minutes to go, that hurts.
Man, they've put nothing around him.
Yeah, it's a one-man
They
show,
got
man.
fooled. They went to that Western Conference Finals, and I'm like, now granted, him and Spencer Dinwiddie is second in the league in backcourt scoring. I didn't think that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell would be number 1 at this point.
Where are they?
Number
backcourt?
1.
Oh,
They're
are.
the number 1 scoring
Wow.
backcourt in the league, and this is over all of them.
What derailed Dallas was Porzingis, Kristaps Porzingis.
Killed him.
They were supposed to be the
But
tandem.
that guy never stayed healthy in New York.
I'm just saying.
No, but I mean,
To G's
it's a
point-
different story if he's
Yeah.
around. And
To
no,
G's
he's
point,
not.
though, sometimes having too much playoff success early
Fooled
derails
you.
your team. Look at the Hawks, too. The Hawks,
Hawks,
made
I know,
the
Atlanta's a
final
great
2 years
example of
ago.
that.
They go all in when the reality was that team was not ready to go all in. That team was
No,
2
you're
3
right.
years away.
Yep.
They got lucky that Ben Simmons had the brain fart. He hasn't been the same since. They played a
Right.
terrible Knicks team in the playoffs. They get crushed by the Bucks. You look at the Mavericks last year. They make the Western Conference Finals. They go through Phoenix, who collapsed. They weren't ready to take that all-in step. They lose Brunson because they go, hey, we need that money because we need a big guy.
That's true.
And sometimes, you love your team to make it. You never say it's a bad thing to get that postseason experience.
Right.
But can accelerate a timeline when a team doesn't actually need to be
Mitchell
accelerated.
said after the game that he talked about losing to Dallas in this. Remember, they lost Game 6 at home.
Yeah.
And he actually said that he now looks at it as a good thing because it put him in Cleveland.
See, do you think
Which tells me how much he loves being in Cleveland.
Yeah, he
Do
does.
you think they could piggyback off that experience? I know somebody, because last year we said they wasn't ready for it. We needed to get some playoff experience, 4 or 5 games and lose, and then figure out how to play yourself in championship basketball. Can they piggyback that? And Donovan Mitchell says, "No, I remember when we lost to a team in the first round." Because Mitchell's been in some big series out west.
Yeah, he has, but you guys have to go through it for themselves. What Donovan experienced is good for Donovan, and he can learn from it. But Donovan can't. I remember when LeBron came back and Kyrie had never experienced a playoff game, and they played an early season game at Chicago, and Kyrie looked at James, I think it was James Jones, and said, "Is this what the playoffs are like?" And James was like, "Come on, man, are you serious?"
Playoffs.
But they had no idea.
Right.
And you have to, and that's why I thought last year was kind of devastating for the Cavs, because they need that series.
They missed that
JB
opportunity.
needs that series. JB needs to know what it's like to, hey, they took away our best play.
Yeah.
That not only are they doubling Donovan, but this ATO that we run, they took that away. So now I have to come up with something to adjust.
And how
off that.
rotations become so drastically different in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And
I mean,
that's
a
where
huge change.
That's where Ty Lue, to me, is an elite head coach because of what he can do in a playoff series. He is sensational in the playoffs, and we have to figure out if JB can be that guy because we don't know.
Yeah, no,
By
that's
the way,
true.
Luka Doncic and Zach Jackson separated at birth. You buying that?
No.
Look at their faces. They look alike.
No.
Bull, come on.
and I'm telling you,
Their faces. Look at their
I'm gonna
faces.
use your favorite term.
Yeah.
You lost in the Super Bowl.
if Donovan Mitchell, if the Cavs get to, I don't know if they can get to the number 1 seed. 2 might be out of the reach. But I'm gonna tell you
Number
what.
1 seed.
Yeah,
The Cavs ain't getting the number 1
No, I'm
seed.
talking about in the East. Well, they're 3 right now.
not
I don't
getting
know
a
if
1.
they can get to the 2.
They're not catching Boston, Milwaukee.
So if, how many points Donovan Mitchell got to keep putting up before they like, oh, listen, this guy might be an MVP candidate? I mean, he putting up 30 a game.
He's got to keep doing that.
I mean,
a lot of times you have to, it's a progression.
Yeah, you
and
get
then
into the conversation.
you got to get in the club.
Then you get into the top 2.
That's right.
It's like winning a championship. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Nobody goes from worst to first in the NBA.
Unless you're Derrick Rose. That's the only time I've ever seen somebody
D.
just
Rose.
that D Rose, that MVP they gave him. I was like, but he only getting That was one of the LeBron MVPs that they just gave away. That
Yeah,
was,
they didn't want LeBron to get it.
Remember they gave MVPs away to Steve Nash.
That was Kobe's MVPs.
Yeah, that was. You're right. It was Kobe's.
They ain't slick. Giannis done won it twice. Maybe y'all you guys vote. Who in the Athletic votes for MVP?
Jason, do you have an MVP vote?
I did when I was a beat writer, but I don't anymore. A lot of times they give those to beat writer, and then you have to be a national NBA writer, and I'm not considered a national NBA writer.
I'm stunned that you're not considered a national NBA writer. You should be.
Well, I mean, if the Athletic categorized me as that, then I would be. But they asked me to be, and I told them I didn't want to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd rather do this. This is way more fun because this allows me time to do stuff like this.
Sure.
If I was a national NBA writer, I wouldn't have time to do it. So, I mean, I guess I'm categorized as like senior columnist type thing.
Right,
so
yeah.
I just write about whatever I want. I do more NFL now than NBA.
Do you really?
Yeah, but I could do either.
By the way,
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell is 8th in scoring in the league.
It's a lot of people. Hey, Shai Gilgeous, what's his name? Shai
Gilgeous-Alexander.
Chris, is he getting 33? The scoring is outrageous.
Joel Embiid is leading the league at 33.3. Then Doncic, Giannis is 3, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 4, Jason Tatum, Durant, Steph Curry, and then Mitchell.
If the Cavs finish third in the East and Donovan continues playing this way, he'll catch a couple MVP votes. He's not going to be in the top 3 or 4, but he'll get some MVP votes.
And that's step one.
Yeah.
Curry,
I don't even know where he finished in Utah. I'm sure he's got an MVP vote.
I bet he's been top 10 once, at least.
Yeah.
Steph Curry dinged his shoulder
That looked
last
bad.
night. It did look bad.
Yeah.
I think they're going to MRI that today. But
My fantasy team cannot afford that. We cannot be out.
This next stat comes courtesy of Cleveland Whiskey, our favorite alcohol on the market. Cleveland Whiskey's Christmas bourbon is available now. Visit your local liquor store. Take some home today. It's whiskey without limits. Please drink responsibly. The NBA.com releases its MVP ladder every week. On Tuesdays, they put out a new MVP ladder. Donovan Mitchell currently 6th on their MVP ladder.
Very nice.
Crack that
Quarter
top
of the way through the
5.
season. Do you guys want to know 1 through 5, just for fun?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jason Tatum, number 1.
Yeah, they
Giannis, 2. Luka, 3. Jokic, 4. Durant, 5. Mitchell, 6. Curry, 7. Morant, 8. Anthony Davis, 9. Embiid,
I'm surprised
10.
Embiid's that low.
Why
There's
is-
a lot of people around the league that don't like him. A lot of executives.
Why would Doncic
Don't
be in the top 5 when his team is a 500 team?
Because he's Luka.
Yeah, but you can't win the MVP if your team is
He's averaging
not
30.
the NBA.
He's averaging 34, 9, and 9.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's
And
NBA
he's the only
2K
player
numbers.
on that team.
That
You
is
take
crazy.
Luka off, and they're
34, 9, and 9 is
nuts.
ridiculous.
In comparison, just for comparison's sakes, Donovan Mitchell's averaging 29, 4, and 4. So
Yeah.
But I mean, this is
There's a
the
gap there.
This is the Jason Tatum year. They've already pre-dawned
It feels that way.
They've already, the writers have said you went to the finals.
You're preordained.
You're preordained. It's a Tatum year.
It's also dumb.
Yeah, it is kind
It
of.
is dumb, but I agree with you. I hate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it does
It's
feel.
the progression. I just
yeah.
said it.
Okay,
It's the
you've waited in
progression.
line. Who's next? Bring him up.
Jokic is down at 6, even though he has the same numbers or better than he did when he won the MVP.
Yeah.
He'll never win
Have
it
you guys
again.
been paying attention to the Pelicans?
Zion's been playing great.
He's out of his mind.
Hey,
And
They're
they're
the
out
number
of
one
there.
team in the
They're
West.
the number 1 team in the West.
By the
I'ma
way,
take
this
Pelicans
was not,
good.
and we got to do internet comments in a sec. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts. How petty of it was the Suns to get mad at that windmill dunk at the end?
That was
Yeah,
pathetic.
I know. That's.
That drives me.
Who cares?
Nuts.
It was
I know.
pathetic by the Suns.
I thought it was weak.
Everybody complains about unwritten rules in baseball. Well, we got to complain about the unwritten rules in basketball.
There we go.
now. Stupid.
If Zion was in any other market, this would have gotten out more. He asked for a trade almost every week last year in the year.
Yeah.
He did not want to be in New Orleans.
No, he didn't.
And Griffin, that whole staff, came within a whisker getting fired. And to see the way that they flipped that and turned that around.
It's great to see.
I can't believe that Griff survived because it was really bad.
Aren't
last
they
year.
holding your breath with him, though, every game?
Zion?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Sure. you are.
But if it's a
But
CJ
if he
McCollum looks good, Ingram is nice, Valanciunas is keeping.
Jose Alvarado is the most fun dude you've never heard of in the NBA.
Really?
They're
Why?
good. They're good.
He's an undrafted, 30-year-old Spaniard who plays full court defense. He's everything you hate in pickup.
Yeah.
In the NBA, he's got dreadlocks. Him and Chris Paul look like they're going to fight every game. He's so much fun to watch, even though he doesn't really dominate the box. He's just a pest.
You want
He's
my
awesome to watch.
you want my hot take?
Yeah.
And I don't give very many hot takes. New Orleans will not be, or the Pelicans will not be in New Orleans within 10 years. they'll be
Yeah,
gone.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I think the league wants them out of that.
One of the unwritten stories about the Saints in the NFL is that market size in the NFL doesn't really matter as much as it does in the other sports because of the way they share their money league-wide. That's why a team like Green Bay, who's in the smallest pro sports market, I think, in the United States, that's why they can thrive and succeed. Where if this were baseball and you were relying on local contracts, but I've looked at the situation there. New Orleans has hemorrhaged population since the last couple of hurricanes. There have been hundreds of thousands of people have left the ADI, the market, and they have not returned. And it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't think they can support any team other than a National Football League team because their population base and their economic stature.
If you take the Saints away,
both of those facilities,
if you take the Saints away,
antiquated.
If the Saints leave,
the Saints away,
they'll never
that
move
city
the
will
Saints.
die.
No, because again, because the way the profits
they won't take
are
the
shared.
Saints, but
I don't
where
think
they going to end up, the Pelicans.
They were in the running to get a Major League Baseball team not long ago. They were one of like the Nashvilles and the Charlottes. I think that ship has sailed because
Next
of their
baseball
population
team's got to be in
loss.
Vegas, no?
But I believe you're right.
I think the NBA will be back in Seattle and Vegas within 10 years.
I think, is it possible the Pelicans go to Seattle?
I think it's possible.
I mean, they should have never left Seattle.
I don't know which is going where, but I'm just saying I think Seattle and
team,
Vegas will have teams within the next 10 years.
I still don't understand
Maybe
Seattle.
a lot faster than
LeBron
that.
says he wants to own the Vegas team.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a stretch that when he retires, that's where he puts all of his efforts to getting an NBA team in Vegas.
McNuggety?
Got to do McNuggety. I like that. We got to do what the internet says real quick. Whenever we do what the internet says, it's brought to us by our best friends over at PCC Air Force. We have an Eddie jingle after this, so stay tuned for an Eddie Christmas jingle. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Eddie, take it away.
Rocking around with PCC and the airfoil makers. Mistletoe hung where you can see, but not for you, Baker. Rocking around with PCC, hey, look at the Christmas tree. Later we'll have some pumpkin pie and Cleveland whiskey.
Wow. Throws in Cleveland whiskey,
It's
too.
That's a great job.
Wow, I love that he throws in a Baker Slight on the week that he's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
There's so many iceberg categories. He put 3 subliminal things in there. Like
That's
lot of cats wouldn't even if you just watching and you just pull up like the first week, you're not gonna get that.
No.
But if you're a day one guy, you
Eddie's
understand.
a diehard for
Yeah,
sure.
you
Hey, we got
understand.
2 of
man.
these,
We
and I
love you,
want to
Eddie.
get the final takes because Jay, we got to get to your final take.
Go ahead.
From Sean.
I got a quick final take also.
Sean Philpott, it's just a statement. He says, well, isn't the answer to whether 3 years long enough based on what the expectations were from the start? Yeah, I think that does play a large role into it. And this is for Jason. This is from Donnie, specifically addressed to Jason. What was the issue with Shanahan in Cleveland?
He wanted out. The whole story about the PowerPoint presentation was 100% true. He went to ownership with a PowerPoint of all the reasons why it wasn't going to work and why he wanted out, so they let him out of his contract because he didn't want to be here.
He hated the uniforms. He didn't like the food. The cafeteria was trash.
It was
he didn't
just
like his parking
That
spot.
was such a fun story back in the day.
I think what it was.
I don't know that story, by the way.
I think he discovered and knew that he had other options and knew that he was a rising head coach opportunity. I think he discovered that the soil was toxic here.
Yeah.
You can't win here. I don't want my career to start and die here.
That's exactly it.
And he got out.
How many head coaches never got another chance because they came here? And
The list is long.
And say what you want about Josh McDaniels, and I know a lot of people don't like him and think he's a terrible head coach, but the one thing he nailed was his presentation. When they hired Kevin, he came in and said, gut the entire building. Everybody has to go, and you start fresh. Everybody has to go. And ownership did not like hearing that. And
Of course
so
not.
he didn't get the job.
Yep.
Let's get the final take so we can make sure we get Jason. Bull, you're up first.
All right, let me tell you something. I just got to bring up their names because I never remember their names. Is it who the morning show on Good Morning? What's the one on channel on NBC? Hoda and what's her
Hoda
name?
and
Kathy Lee?
It's on.
It used to be Kathy Lee, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
whatever it is. It's
I
good.
should know.
It's good. I don't even know the
It's
names
the
of the
Today
shows.
Show.
The Today
Today
Show.
Show.
That's it. So I happen to be in our cafeteria upstairs getting some snacks yesterday, and Hoda and whatever her name is are on there, and they're sitting there at the desk talking kind of off the cuff. I don't know if it was or not. and they're giving advice, and they just gave like the worst advice I'd ever seen. And I'm like, hopefully people are not listening to them, although I know they are because it's a very popular show. First they said, they were talking about somebody that was ill, and they were like, he decided he wasn't going to complain about it to anybody because somebody's got it worse. Well, as my therapist once said to me, you got to have somebody to complain to because there's always somebody that's got it worse and there's always somebody that's got it better. It is healthy to complain, not all the time, but it's healthy to at least have one person to complain about to the crappy things in life. So terrible advice by them there. Number two, they told this story about 4 guys trying out for a job, and 3 of them wanted as much money as they could get, and the 4th guy did it for almost no money, and he got the job because he was a nice guy. What? That makes you a nice guy because you got taken advantage of financially? I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense either. That's, again, terrible advice. There's one more, but it'll be controversial, so I'll leave it be. That's it. Don't listen to TV people, except for me. Everybody else is an idiot. Let's go.
Jason?
I'll be quick. We didn't have the chance last week to talk about this. Grant Wahl, the legendary soccer writer, died while covering the World Cup. And my profession lost one of the absolute pillars. And I know there was a lot of controversy around it and wondering if there was foul play involved, given some of the stances that he took while he was in Qatar and then to just drop dead. His wife, the Dr. Selena Gounder, came out and said he died of an aortic aneurysm. There was no foul play involved. And I didn't know Grant well, but our paths crossed very briefly a long time ago when he, of course, wrote the legendary LeBron story, the coming out story of LeBron in Sports Illustrated, with The Chosen One, when LeBron really hit the map nationally. Grant was a fantastic writer, just a compassionate human. He cared for others, and may he rest in peace. Just a devastating loss to his family, to the soccer world, and to my profession.
All right. Very well said. That's such a sad story. I was just looking at that the other day. It's crazy. Tonight I'll be speaking at the Lake Erie International High School. So I will be speaking to some youth as well as adults in the alternative high school who've gone back and got their GED, gone back and gotten their diplomas. And so tonight I'll be talking to them about the most powerful, the most important thing in the world or the universe, and it's time. Time is, more important than money. Time is more important than, jobs or your career. Time is something that you automatically have to learn when to spend it correctly, and you have to learn one of the greatest lessons ever, and that is you can't get it back. There's a lot of people walking the streets, and there's a lot of people that are in anguish. A lot of people that live inside their own heads because they did not take advantage of the time that they were given to them. So when you walk around, don't just exist. You have to live in the moment, live for what you want to do, and always be thinking of, am I spending the best way that I can with my time? And so I'll be talking to them about that. They've made their choice to do something good with their time, which is to always go back and capitalize off what you can do. It's never too late. You can start now by just being in the moment, being with the people you care about, and always cherishing the time you have here on this planet.
I love
Well
that.
said.
That's part of my standard PowerPoint speech is I say that time is the only resource we'll never have more of. Mm-hmm. And it's the most important resource in all of our lives. Don't waste a second. Don't waste a minute. Don't waste a day. I'm just going to start by asking you to throw up this picture. This dude's 12.
What?
This dude is 12
That's impossible.
years old. He has facial hair. He has piercings. He has tattoos. He
sure
has
this
a
is true?
trophy. This is true.
The New York Post?
They have it's all over the internet.
Oh, okay.
This went mega viral. This was just the New York Post.
Mega
throwing tag
viral.
on it.
And it was one of those things that after I saw it 3 days ago, then I saw it 2 days ago, I saw it yesterday. I'm like, how have we not talked about this yet on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show? So I just wanted to bring this up and to show you this pic. We all played against kids that, and maybe, Bull, you might have been one of those kids where everybody on the other team was saying, we called them birth certificates.
Yeah.
They're like, I need to see a birth certificate on this dude.
Keep that.
I remember I played a 7th grade football game against Port Clinton. They had a running back that his first name was Luca. And this dude had long, wild hair and facial hair. And he was a running back. And I played corner on defense. And the first time I came up to fill that hole to hit him, I made a business decision. The business decision I made was that at about 5 foot, 95 pounds, I'm going to get the hell out of this guy's way. And I felt terrible about it. I came back in the huddle and I'm like, yo, I'm sorry, man, but I'm not letting that dude truck me full speed. And then most of our teammates made that same decision the rest of the game. Birth certificate. That is the craziest example of birth certificate I've ever seen.
Yeah, he old.
When I saw that picture.
He looks 20 years older than me.
I mean, he does.
He does.
You're right. He looks like he's in his 30s. And the guy's 12. So we'll keep an eye on him, and maybe one day the Browns will select him number 1 overall, and it'll be over the hill already by the time we get him.
That is weird.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share that. We're out of time. Overtime coming up next for you. Spend the $4.99 a month. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.